Greetings! Before you dive into the podcast, I would like to apologise. Due to my microphone setup becoming a stupid, stubborn, malfunctioning arsehole, my audio for the greater percentage of this episode is noticeably crapper. While I have done my best to clean it up, it is certainly not the usual standard, so please accept my apologies. I hope it doesn't overly hamper your enjoyment of the podcast, and rest assured, everything is now sorted. So please do enjoy Zapped to the Past.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, then this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week we looked at our first batch of games from issue 29 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and we were sucker punched by Snapdragon, caught short by California Games, and bailed out on the Transatlantic Balloon Challenge. This week we conclude our look at the games in September 1987, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. So Graham, tell us what we have going on in this episode.
In this decidedly shabby but endearing seaside promenade, with row upon row of donuts and ice cream shops, arcades with endless rows of jammed 2-penny 4 machines, cigarette-burned arcade cabinets with broken joysticks, angry-looking cash assistants in tiny plastic booths, and mysterious pound-coin-swallowing hydraulic ride-on rocket rodeos of an episode. We test our reflexes, reactions, and patience as we blast through yet another insanely difficult shooter in the soul-destroying Zynaps, break out the big blinks in the utterly strange forced perspective gated assault course-strewn universe of Deceptor, and receive painful pixelated black eyes in the vampiric gauntlet-infused shitshow that is Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires. We also take to the streets of 8-bit New York on a pixelated killing spree in the ethically bereft crap film licensed tie-in, Death Wish 3, shoot across more skies in yet another Euridi clone, this time periodically bouncing off the enormous rocks in Thunderbolt, and slip our leads and grab our poop bags as we doggedly charge around a strange moon looking for space griffins in the Roadrunner-inspired Star Paws. If that last game of penny fours hasn't emptied your cup of the pound's worth of 2 pences you mistakenly changed on a whim, and the machine has just dropped another ton for you to ensure you're trapped for hours, we experience life in the modern 8-bit Navy, commanding tiny dots around a map and stirring puddings in the stupid Convoy Raider, swashbuckle, shiver our timbers and yo-ho-go on a deeply researched sea adventure through the Spanish Main in the brilliant Pirates, drive a tank to align some mirrors to bounce some lasers to open some doors in the mini-turned-maxi game Rebel, explore yet another impossibly difficult top-down Warhawk simulator in the deja vu-y Denarius, before finally grabbing our trials bikes once again, heading to a totally rebuilt dirt track and assault course, and having a great laugh, all for a couple of quid in the unbelievable bargain Kikstart 2. You can get a bag of 5 sugary donuts for £2 at the seaside, which is good value. The repeated trips to the dentist for root canal treatment afterwards, less so.
Awesome. I hope so. I hope it's good. I really do. I'd need some good games after last week.
Don't we all?
We all?
Still struggling to come to terms with laser-firing eagles that need to reach out on giant balloons.
And postcards around mazes.
Oh,
it was all kinds of weird wrong.
Stupid,
yeah. So, like Conan, let's waste no time and let's get on into our game, shall we? I think we should.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So our first one, our first game is Zynaps. Zynaps is a 90% sizzler from Houston. So Zynaps continues our run of rock hard scrolling shooters, and this is from Houston. Houston have released this. So this was programmed by John Cumming. We've previously seen his work on Firelord. Do you remember Firelord? The kind of wander around and barter medieval thing. It was designed by John Cumming and also Dominic Robinson, and it has graphics by John Cumming, did a lot on this, and Stephen Crow, who we previously seen on Starquake. Stephen Crow's still working on the industry. He's like head of art or head of one of the art parts for.
It makes sense. The guy's mega talented.
Well, he's Warcraft. He works on World of
There you
Warcraft.
go. He probably plays it as well. Probably the only one in there now.
Probably.
Where's everyone?
I don't know. Help me. And music by Nigel Grieve. Nigel Grieve had previously listened to his work.
Grieve graphics, Grieve.
No. This is Nigel Grieve. He'd previously listened to his work on Starglider. So there you go. He'd done the music for that.
Put the sound of crickets in there.
Exactly. I just thought you might do the Rainbird.
Rain from Rainbird.
Anyway, so there you go. Here's credits out the way. That's Zynaps. So the plot, such as it is, and this is going by the back of the box. So Zynaps is a game constructed like a comic book with 3 episodes and 4 chapters and mind-blowing action. Deep in space, our hero escapes from an alien space station where he battles through asteroid storms to a nearby planet, from where, equipped with weaponry and hyperspace units taken from a destroyed alien craft, he sets out in search of the secret alien stronghold. After many terrifying battles throughout the solar system, now I thought this was in deep space, but what do I know? Our hero discovers the location of the alien base and the final conflict can begin. That's the plot.
There it is.
I don't know it has anything to do with this game.
Did it need a plot?
I don't understand it. It makes no sense. And there's also, logical inconsistencies there. Anyway, so this mess of sci-fi nonsense, it's all just wallpaper for a left to right horizontal shmup in the Nemesis style of shooter. So like most of these, you pilot a spaceship, and in this it's called the Scorpion, and you have 3 of these at your disposal, and you must navigate your way through 12 levels, which I guess is the 3 chapters and 4 episodes. 3 times 4.
Sounds about right,
That's my math. 12 levels of hectic blasting action, shooting everything that comes your way and try to stay alive as long as you can. It's standard left to right scrolling shmup stuff. You probably won't stay alive for very long, though, because it's rock hard. So the screen is split, with the top 3 quarters, roughly top 3 quarters being the play area, and the bottom quarter being the UI. Now, a big chunk of the UI is taken up with the Houston logo that cycles with the name Zynaps. And this actually takes up the bottom left of the UI and seems utterly redundant and a waste of space.
Stupid.
What is it with games doing this?
I've noticed a few of them. It seems to be a bit weird.
Name of the game. The weird thing is that on the Spectrum version, it doesn't have that. The UI is all the way across the bottom of the screen, nicely laid out and presented. I don't know why they just thought we'll just have that. I don't know. Anyway, over in the bottom, maybe people, Houston, it's Houston. Remember us? We did Paradroid.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
it just seems like an extra thing to put in when you don't need to. But okay.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so over in the bottom right of the UI, squashed into the bottom right hand corner is all the information you need.
Awesome.
I know, it's great. It could have been nicely spread across the bottom, like a nice bit of butter on some toast. But it's not.
Nicely spread.
This is essentially like getting a slice of toast and they've only buttered one corner. Nobody wants that.
That's in my house. That's a crime. Deluxe.
Yeah, nobody wants that whatsoever. Anyway, what we got? So you got all information which includes your present score, the high score, again, well, okay, your number of lives left, which takes up a load of space. Not just a number, it's like a load of thing. Don't know why.
Well, you need to see that go down pretty quickly, so it's good to be there.
But they've left space for more lives. Just have a number, lives number, takes up less space. So number of lives left, the level number you're on, which doesn't really matter, and most importantly, your weapons info. We'll come to that in a bit. So like I said, this should have been spread across the entire bottom of the screen, and like they've done on the Spectrum. Don't know why they've done this. Anyway, weapons. Let's get to the weapons, because it's like Nemesis. So when waves of enemies are shot, they drop fuel pods, which you can collect. And there are 5 things you can upgrade, and flying into a pod cycles through these. Okay, so they'll go back to the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how they go. So they start with speed. Then you've got shot speed, bombs, missiles, and homing missiles. So when one of these is selected, essentially it starts off with speed. Okay, and so once a pod is on screen, you can hold down the fire button, and this essentially starts the Scorpion, your spaceship. It'll start flashing. So if you fly into the pod in this state, it activates that weapon boost. Okay, so the way that these work, they're split into 2. So your speed and shot speed are kind of separate from the bomb, the missile, and the homing missile. So your speed and your shot speed, they have separate panels in the UI, and can go up to a level of 4. So every one you collect of those, you start on 2. So you start at level 2 on each. So if you collect an extra speed one, you go up to level 3, level 4, so on. If you collect if you collect one of these pods without initiating the flashing thing. It just basically goes to the next one along. So if you collect one, it'll go to the shot speed. Then if you start flashing, your shot speed will go up, and so on and so forth. So you don't really want to increase your speed at all. Stay at 2. Because 2 is fast enough, really. It's one of them games where actually your basic speed is okay. What you do want to do, though, is increase your shot speed, so get that up as quick as you can. And it's quite good because every wave of aliens drops it, so it doesn't take you long to sort of boost up to stuff. You can cycle through these quite quickly, and that's a good thing. So you can get powered up, because your shot speed at 1, if you ever go down to 1, is really slow. It's like 1 bullet on screen, but at 4, it's like it's a persistence, and that's good. So the other thing is as well, you can only have one of the other 3 weapons equipped at any one point. So if your bombs are highlighted, or homing missiles, not missiles, and so if you're on homing missiles at the moment and your bomb is highlighted and you go into that flashing, then you've suddenly got bombs, not homing missiles. So you got to be careful as to what you pick up. It's kind of a bit of a, you have to sort of react to this. You've got to plan this a little bit, sort of what you want to pick up. I thought this was a pretty decent and well implemented system. It's kind of reminded me of initiating the transfer stage in Paradroid, and the way the power-ups are implemented in Whizball. It's kind of a cross between there. You kind of move across. So it's because it's all joystick implemented, is what I mean. So you don't have to press a space bar. It all works on the joystick, and that's good. And after a few goes, you kind of get used to it, and it works pretty well. You can zip through them quite well. Over time, though, any increments to your boost and your shot speed, your normal speed and your shot speed, they will run out. So you need to keep collecting them and topping them up and activating them. So you'll start to see them sort of flashing down at the bottom on your UI, which could have been bigger, which would have been nicer. Which is why the UI being bigger would have been more help, because it would have been more obvious that this was about to go down. It took me a while to notice it quite small. But once they're flashing, you want a collection of the shot speed. Keep that up. Don't. That's not much of a chore. What is a chore, though, is the difficulty and the game's choice of putting you, again, this is another one of those, puts you right back at the beginning. It's not the only one we're going to see this episode as well, but it puts you right back at the beginning of a level every time you die. Now, this is a hard game, and the opening level is a tight section of a space station design with not much room to maneuver and navigate, and you'll soon see why getting anything above 2 levels of speed is a bad idea, because it's inertia-based, so there's a little bit of inertia on your craft, so moving it, speeds up and once should you be crazy enough to try and get to level 4 in this space station, death is almost instantaneous because it's so twitchy at that level. So you'll just smash into walls and be instantly dead and be back at the beginning. On top of this, death sees you lose a level from your speed and your shot speed, along with any weapons you had picked up. So on level 1, maybe it's not so bad, there's loads of enemies to get powered up again, but it is a pain if you die straight away and you've got on level 2, so you're basically down to level 1. And so it's your shot speed is slow and you are chuggish at this moment. You are like sluggish, you're to move. And so it's like punishes you. This is a hard game and it punishes you for dying. Not just putting you back to normal, it actually puts you back to worse. You did stupid, you bad boy, you died. We're going to punish you for that. And that feels kind of harsh. Seems this is a really hard game. So on level 1, maybe this is not a chore because there's loads of aliens. So it's not so bad to pick up and get back to where you were quite relatively quickly. Shoot the first wave, pick it up, you get your speed back up, and shoot the next wave, or shoot the next one. There's a couple of ways. You'll be back up to normal. The problem comes at the beginning of level 2. Should you ever get there, you have to navigate a fast-moving asteroid field, which you can't shoot. You can't shoot any of the rockets, any of the rocks that are coming at you. Dying here sees you lose speed quickly. To such an extent, it's virtually impossible to navigate the asteroids at the lowest speed. And there are no power-ups for ages, because you just rocks for yonks until you suddenly get, so the one wave will suddenly appear in a part of the screen that, you're so slow to get there, I can't move. I remember a mobility scooter at this point, trying to get there, and like dead. It's just painful, because it essentially makes, you're just dead. So it's like, well done, you got to level 2, we're going to kill you now. And that's a pain, really. So visually, the game is nice. It's pretty nice with some really good sprite work. The animation on your ship is nice, got a little sort of lean as you move up and down the screen, so that's quite nice. The various enemies are good. The backgrounds are excellent. I thought some nice artistic touches, and some of the later levels really do shine. I've sort of looked at something online, and there's some really nice bubbly highlighted glass type stuff, so there's nice stuff like that on. The music on the title screen is decent enough. It reminded me of all other Hewson title screen music. It's just that kind of, they have that kind of short tune. It's not It's not offensive. It's not brilliant. You won't be with it, but it's all right and kind of it's all right. The sound effects are pretty solid though, I thought, because that's all there is in this game. There's no music. It's all sound effects. So they've allowed to sort of breathe a little bit, and I think they do the job well. There is, however, some severe slowdown at times if you get quite a few things moving on screen, and that can lead to annoying deaths, which obviously doesn't help things because you power down and blah, blah, and you're back to the beginning. But it doesn't happen that often, and mostly this is quite slick. In and of itself, the nice title screen, everything works pretty much as it should. I'm just wondering what, like you said, whether we needed the animated Hewson and Zynaps in the bottom left hand corner, and we could have used that little bit of CPU time maybe to stop the slowdown quite so much. Just you don't need that more in the bottom. If things are slowing down, get rid of stuff you don't need. Basic, really. It's a solid blaster though. But it's pretty good. It got 90%. I can see why. It's well designed. In and of itself, if you can get over the punishing difficulty curve, and it looks great, and the animation on the your ship explosion is nice. It reminded me of Alley Cat, but again, it's just those same issues we've seen in others. It's too hard and too punitive, and you need to have a perfect run to get through some of the later levels, to get to some of the later levels, and even through them. By the time you're there and learning them, it's death to you and back to the beginning. I see why it's getting that. It's clever and it feels good to play. There's the way it feels, the controls are nice, so it does actually feel that way. But I can't feel that the opening level should have been the second one. It feels too claustrophobic to start with, and not so many rocks. Start you in space. There's a reason Nemesis starts you in space, I imagine, because it allows you a lot of open area to get used to the controls, and you're not overwhelmed, and it eases you in. And this is just like, blah, we will kill you with narrow ship. It's like the amount of times I died trying to shoot that opening like silo that's at the bottom because I just went down too quickly and crashed into the thing. It's just pain in the ass. So yeah, it's too claustrophobic. I just want more space. Maybe like Nemesis, that would have been good, and that's why Nemesis feels more welcoming than this, and why I probably enjoyed Nemesis more. It's good, don't get me wrong, and it looks nice and it feels the part, but and I like that control system. I just think it just needed a touch of work in the sort of onboarding and maybe a rethink of some of the level structure to really get you involved in it and not feel so harsh and uninviting. That's what I took on Zynaps. What about you?
Nice graphics, plays quite nicely, stupidly hard, simple as that. Not going to add much more to what you've said. I mean, who do they get to play test these games? Billy Mitchell? I mean, who are these game players that come out who play these things? Nobody has seen the end screens on that game apart from the developer. Ridiculous. It's just it's impossibly hard. Impossible, I would say. I mean, I liked it. I like the way it played. It's a really good looking side-scroll shooter, even with the little bugs and the twitches and the multiplexer and stuff. Loads of varied sprites, patterns, following the usual attack patterns, though, aren't they? So all these enemy fighters, they all learn the sine wave before they learn fly straight, I think. But either way, it owes a massive amount to Delta, which owes a massive amount to Nemesis and all of those. So it's very much, I think I probably felt a bit more Delta-y in terms of its ridiculous difficulty and the way you get punished for losing weaponry and stuff. So I don't know. The upgrade seemed okay, actually, but like you said, it's quite nice in that way. But I couldn't honestly tell you how effective they were because I never lived long enough to really fully exploit them.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how I was firing them as well. They seem to fire arbitrarily. Yeah, sometimes they wouldn't.
The homing missile seemed totally stupid as well. It didn't really seem to do a lot. It's like the worst homing missiles in the world. I mean, my bullets were more accurate, and that's not good.
They were actually going home.
They just flew off.
Back to the factory from whence they were built.
Where did you buy these homing missiles from? Are these from eBay? Because there seem to be a tactically incorrect. Anyway. And then, of course, you've got the ultimate, glove slap, haven't you? Where you go back to the start of the level when you die. So this is a common thing where I'm noticing now. Playtest any of these games. Are they doing it, or they're just pushing these things out? And this one is such a shame. If you'd have given it a little bit more an easy in, or at least give the players a chance, it could have been easily one of the great side scrollers. It looks the part. It's really good looking. Great sound effects and stuff like that. But no, that didn't happen, did it? So Bobby McDifficult game came in and decided to glove slap us again with another one. These are more like duel challenges now. I feel like I get glove slapped. It's like, I challenge you to a duel, sir. I think I'm not going to lose because I can't, my bullet isn't upgraded enough. By the time I stand in front of you, I'm just going to go plop. Oh,
Yeah.
it's like starting a duel with a pop gun. It's not going to work, is it? So no. I can see why it scored the way it did. I think it's a bit high, actually, for a game that's so impossibly hard, which they all note, by the way, in the review.
They do, yeah.
We're going to come across other games like this. They all seem to just go from, hellish difficulty seems to be the way at the moment, doesn't it? It's the trend in these ones.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's my 50-year-old reflexes against my 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old reflex, or just these games are just rock hard.
No, it's oftentimes, as you rightly noted, it's not always about the reaction times with these games. I mean, yeah, that's obviously is going to be a factor, but it's not about that. If you lose your weapons at the wrong point, you can't get any further, and it's just back to the beginning of the game, really. And it's a trend in some of these things. It's something that's remedied later on in games like Catechist, and we get to those. But this one, no, just rock hard. Nice raster effect on the opening there. Nice logo. But,
absolutely.
Doesn't mean jack shit. Zynaps, by the way. I guess is it a play on Synaps? I don't know anyway.
I have no idea. I'm guessing so because it's not even the name of your ship.
Yeah, nice looking, but too hard.
Yeah,
which is the review every porn star wants, I think.
True.
There you go.
Or Ivan Drago.
He wasn't nice looking. Oh, maybe he was. He was a big old chap, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, he was rock hard. I don't know.
He was,
maybe.
Well,
Bridget Nielsen seemed to like him in the game.
Well, she's rock hard as well.
Indeed. Oh, there we go. Zynaps. It broke me. I died. If I died, I died. And I did.
You will die a lot.
A lot. Yeah. There we go. All right, Zynaps. Let's move along. And Graham, we've got more transforming shenanigans going on. Tell us about Deceptor.
Accolade brought this to life. It's a real odd thing, this. It's a really weird one.
It's weird.
It feels like an amalgamation of 50 ideas and 100 styles all kind of rolled into one game. Anyway, it's from Accolade. And it's created by Advantage, who are the developers behind Spy vs. Spy, Volumes 1 and 2, and Desert Fox. The design is by Rick Banks. That's the guy that designed Killed Until Dead amongst many others. Coded by Paul Brownrigg and J. Stewart Easterbrook. They did Ace of Aces, Desert Fox, and all that kind of stuff. Graphics, Grant Campbell, Scott Fiander, Reg Beatty, musician Paul. But it's got a pedigree. It's an Accolade game, so and they don't tend to throw themselves into rubbishy things. So this is really odd. This game is really unusual.
Yep.
So the challenge, according to the instructions, your quest is to discover what your elders have set forth as your destiny. They have taught you the way of transformation. You, as Deceptor, why they've called you that, not just Bill or Ted or John, but Deceptor's your name now. May assume 3 forms to help you advance your quest. To accomplish your goal, you must pass through 4 corridors of space and time. Then you will realise your destiny and assume control of your future. I think that last sentence tells that they didn't really know what the hell they were on about. There you go.
I think that last sentence tells me there was a lot of...
Yeah, I'm telling you that, honestly, this is why don't we make the cassette jar-shaped? I don't know. So the game, you must navigate the terrain of each corridor and avoid its dangerous inhabitants. I love it when enemies are called dangerous inhabitants. I've got a few of them around here. Anyway, at the end of each corridor is a guarded gate protected by a gatekeeper. At each gate, lots of gates there, you will be forced to do battle with the gate's guardian in order to pass to the next corridor. You have a limited amount of time to reach each gate. Death is your penalty for failure. Gates. It's all about gates. The gates, man. You've got to get through the gates. What are you doing? What about these gates? Okay, so to get the idea of the game, you're a robot thing. You can change in 3 different forms, and you've got to get through the assault course, as it were, and past the gates. So the game is unusual from the weird title screen, which is weird because it's sort of comic book and nothing like the instructions manual at all. In fact, they're completely opposing styles. One is kind of it's weird. It's just weird. This whole thing is weird. I have a feeling that this game is bolted together from bits of stuff they had in different disk drives, I think. Anyway. Yeah. So from the weird title screen to the weird Bontempi keyboard being thrown down the stairs title music. Because it just sounded like a broken speaking spell had sort of somehow been married to a Bontempi, and it that's the sound of that. That's what it means. That's a Bontempi keyboard and a speaking spell having sex. That would be the cacophony you would hear. So as all the ingredients when you see this weird comic book thing with a man with a giant fist and all sorts of strange stuff, as the ingredients from the start to be utterly terrible, or could it be a little bit of a hidden gem? So as I've said, the game story is centered around you as the Deceptor. Obviously, in this year, it is like a Transformer or a GoBot. Thankfully, it's actually not those things. Although the transformation sequences always seem to be, when they're in medium res, very disappointing. And this one's weird. The way it goes, flickers in between the 3 things you can be. So you've been trained to take on 3 distinct forms. One is like a tank vehicle. One is a robot, and one is a flying ship or a vessel ship. In the game, you've got to race against the clock, as I've said, and to complete a series of isometric are they isometric? Kind of forced perspective 3D, I suppose. Anyway, sort of forced 3D assault courses and shoot the guards at the end, as I've said. Get through the gates. The gates, man. You've got to get through the gates. It's all about the gates. Each of the obstacle courses is constructed in a way that means you must change between forms to either drive, fly, or otherwise navigate the course to the end. En route, you can collect what look like licorice all sorts, and they give you missiles / bullets, which you're going to need because you have to collect those up to beat the gate guardians at the end of the level. And also, some of them give you a small time bonus. You actually have unlimited lives in this game, but you are against the clock. And if it hits 0 before the gate guardian is killed, game over, man. Game over. When you do reach the guardian, you assume your humanoid form, which makes me wonder what the robot form is actually for, but maybe that's the same thing. I don't know. Anyway, you assume your humanoid form, and you have to shoot the guardian with your hand blaster, which is where you get what you need the bullets for. So you've got to make sure you collect them. Keeping an eye on the explosions, because there's no way you know what you're aiming at. You just kind of got to guess where the explosions hit. All right, okay, that seems about right. The second game, there's another game that does it stupidly like this as well. And once you dispatch the guardian, the remaining time is converted to score, and it's on to the next space and time zone and the next gate. Such a strange game, this. The graphics here are a bit on the blocky side, but that kind of works to its advantage. It's blocky and also kind of borrowing from Marble Madness's kind of look a little bit. I mean, but it is quite blocky. But it does move and scroll and play out really well. So the actual movement of things is actually, it all works. Changing between your forms is weird because it feels a bit like a riddle-me-ree. Sort of you press the button to change because you need to change. Sometimes you've got to fly over things and sometimes you've got to go around things and do it. So in order to change the airplane, you press your button and it goes, and it's sort of a flickery choose your screen thing. And then you I don't think you pick it. I think it automatically assumes it. But if for a second you don't immediately press the fire button to launch into the air, it immediately changes back to a vehicle again.
The paper plane doesn't like being on the ground.
No, and it just changes you back. So sometimes you can find yourself stuck in a bit of a change loop. See, like, so you've got to make sure the key is to making sure you're thrust up into the air as quick as you can. So you've got that, and it plays that well right from the starting screen of this, which is a bit weird. Everything has really weird names. So instead of just start game, you've got face the challenge. The list of heroes. Tune your controls. Tune them. Tune the controls, damn you. Tune them. Which is actually kind of handy because you can alter the sensitivity of things. And of course, you can practice. I don't really see the point in practicing this because the practice levels are quite difficult and almost impossible to escape from. I couldn't seem to get out of there. Anyway, so you can tweak the controls and everything else. So the presentation is actually, even though it's kind of weird, it's okay in the game. It is a bit weird and comic book looking, but it's okay. It plays all right. And it kind of works. The forced 3D perspective thing, all right, you've got to sort of move up and down and sort of raise and lower, and you get a little bit of leeway in the shadows. And it's very bold in terms of its colour and with the way it's shaded. Think Marble Madness, and you'll be on the right tracks of what it was intending to be, I think. The soundtrack during this sequence when you're in the game is like something out of the Terminator. It's genuinely weird. It's like bleak, dark, techno sci-fi. It's quite good, actually. I quite liked it. It's just totally weird. Really weird, dark, growling synth. Some really good sound effects here, too. So I found myself quite liking this game. As much as it's really odd, I found myself quite liking it. I thought I could get around, and once I'd figured out what I was doing, when you get to the different sections, it plays out all right. Graphics are quite good in the sense they are what they are. I thought it was okay. It's just that the whole game has a really weird sense of dread as well. I can't explain that. I think it's partly to do with the soundtrack, partly to do with just kind of the bleakness of the environment, really, because there's not loads of stuff in it. It's just everything's kind of bleak, and the whole idea that you've got to this is your life's goal is to become this triple threat sort of robot thing, and that your destiny is to just go through and do this thing. Go and do your thing. We made you so you could do this challenge. That's the whole point of you. I think, okay, well, I'll go and give it a go. Anyway, really curious game, this one. I quite enjoyed playing it, all said and done. Obviously, it's the disc version that we've played. I imagine on cassette this would be a living hell, but I found myself found it quite endearing in its weirdness. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same ballpark. What a very strange game. A game in which an overacting space ghost compels you to learn the ways of the transformation from odd hovercraft to paper plane back to guy with a gun, that then leaves you to navigate a strange world full of unrelated objects that kill you on touch. And it's not what I saw myself playing this week, of all the things that we kind of look at. But here we are. As odd concepts and approaches go, this kind of won me over in the same way something like Forbidden Forest does. But whereas that is odd horror, this is odd sci-fi.
It's really odd.
And there's something endearingly likable about the whole thing. I mean, I took a screenshot of when you start the game and the Space Ghost like overacts his way out of there on like some kind of space surfboard. It's like, I leave you now. Good luck. May you return victorious. He's like reaching out. It's like something off a weird prog album or something. It's just bizarre.
Very strange.
The loading's a pain though. I thought it's really slow. So I can only imagine what the cassette version was like. It must have been horrific. And the controls do take some used to it, as you noted. My paper plane just kept transforming back immediately until I realised, hold fire button down. Right, okay. There's loads of options to tinker with as well, isn't there? Loads of weird options.
Loads when you go to tune the game,
Yeah, you can change the sound effects pitch.
It's really weird.
I also like the one of the options says practice yet again, like vaguely mocking.
Yeah.
It's like there's a weird mockingness to this from Space Ghost.
Yeah.
So yeah, the visuals are a mix of blandly odd backdrops and even odder sprites. But I thought the transformation was actually all right. I thought it was okay. It's better than the transformation we've seen in those, GoBots and Transformers games.
Yeah.
And I thought it sounded like something from an early electro outfit from the 70s.
Yeah, it's weird and bleak. I loved it, I have to say.
It's really odd.
Right up my wheelhouse there.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to make of this one. It's like a more complicated Metro Cross.
It's really weird.
Dressed up in weird sci-fi pants.
It actually is.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it, but I don't know if it'd be worth it. I don't know. It's another game like Roadrunner, why I'm not sure. Well, I don't know why it needs to be multi-load. I don't know. But it's probably a heritage of its American release because everyone had a disc drive over there.
Yeah.
What an odd game. What an odd, but strangely, weirdly, endearingly enjoyable experience that was.
Yeah, and it's worth, as a footnote, it's worth looking up the manual instructions because the artwork on that's completely different to in the game, and it's actually I really love the artwork on that.
It is very nice. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It is really good. But yeah, what a weird thing this was. We laughed at the crap a while back, didn't we? But
we did. With his big fists.
With garage shaded fist, yeah. And now here comes the game, and we should have known it was going to be weird.
It was going to be a weird one. Odd. No, odd, really odd.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Deceptor was all right.
Yeah, go check it out. It's weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Let's transform into our next one. And that next one, oh Christ, is Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires. It's actually called The Astonishing Adventures of Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires, which is probably the longest title we've had for a game, I think.
It's got to be up there.
I don't know why. Did you see the two covers I put on, by the way?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so anyway, it's a budget. No, it's not a budget title. So I thought it was, but this is a full price, $8.95. So you are Mr. Weems, who I think is the guy on the first cover, which is a bespectacled, portly chap. Looks a bit like I'm trying to think who he looks like. It's like a human version of Penfold. I think it's the closest I can think to it.
It does look like Penfold from Danger Mouse. Yeah.
So a bespectacled, portly chap who, you like to hunt vampires, and in this game you're after the great she-vampires who resides in her 6th-level house, castle thing, whatever. So it's your job to go in and kill her and the hordes of vampires, whatever, and stuff like that there. It's hard to find who actually made this, which doesn't surprise me. I'm guessing no one wanted to put their name to it, but it has links to 5-Way Software and the Ram Jam Corporation, who we've seen before with Cat Trap, Strike Force Cobra, Dandy, Explorer, that sort of thing. So I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it's probably something to do with those people who made Dandy, because this is another top-down flick screen gauntlet type thing. The top 3/4 of the screen are the main play area, and you run around up, down, left, right. You play gauntlet, shooting the enemies that appear from pots that range from, and the enemies, they range from grey blurry sprites to other blurry sprites that are supposed to be vampires and Frankensteins. Some take more hits before they disappear in a horrible sound effect, and that's it. The game lurches around at different speeds, not slow down, just different speeds, and it just depends. And it seems to depend on. It seems to be predicated on how close you are to other objects, and not how much is on screen. There's no, it's not slow down, it's not speed up. It's I don't know what it is. It's just it runs at a speed that is not going to be the same a moment later. Like I said, you've got to progress through the 6 levels, and you have to collect the stake, the mallet, the mega garlic piece, the mirror, and the crucifix. And if you collect them and get to level 6, you can kill the great she-vampire and then make your escape. You will, however, not want to do any of that. as this is a deeply terrible game. It got 19%. I think that's being kind. It does that thing where it does not remember progress. So flicking from screen to screen sees everything that you just destroyed back again, which is incredibly frustratingly annoying. It's entirely possible to come back onto a screen surrounded by pots that you just destroyed, be stuck in them, for monsters to overwhelm you because they just spawn from these pots. Your health is represented by your blood count. So, they've tried to theme it around that, which is on the UI at the bottom, along with what level you're on, your score and your high score. However, once again, we've seen a massive take-up of the UI with something completely random. However, on this one, it's the majority is taken up with a picture of what I can only presume is the Great She-Vampire. But it looks like she's been shot with Homer's makeup gun at close range. That's what it looked like to me.
That's right.
What is it with UIs being mostly crappy images and not useful information? Just don't know. Anyway, this game is terrible. I'm not going to say much more about this. It's a crap Gauntlet knockoff with terrible controls, feels bad, terrible nonsense. The game is terrible. At full price, someone is genuinely laughing at you if you bought this. It does come out later, I think, because there's a budget re-release, which is just called She-Vampires. And that's the second cover of the game, which I also found. So one looks like a terrible 7's animation with Penfold, whilst the other looks like members of Kiss without their makeup on, emerging from coffins in Basques. I'm not quite sure what the hell this was. All I know is it was utterly crap, awful game, dreadful. You get along with Mr. Weems and his hunt for she-vampires?
No. Now, firstly, let me just establish something, okay?
Okay, go on.
She-vampires just troubles me, because aren't vampires... Why is that... are we doing that? Is that... I thought vampire was a vampire. I thought it was gender neutral, as it were.
True. Also, if you look at the picture of the vampires on the first cover, they don't have arms; they just have wings. Then that's not going to be useful for anything.
Yeah, I just think, even from the title, it's stupid. Anyway,
yeah,
another crappy Gauntlet clone. And I have to ask, what's the point? What's the point in making a crap clone of a game like Gauntlet? Especially because you've already got the Mighty Druid out there, or Into the Eagle's Nest at full price, which are both brilliant games and much better than this by miles. Even Avenger. So this is what
Gauntlet to some degree.
I don't know who this appeals to. No idea. Blind people, maybe. I don't know. It's a flick screen, badly drawn and blocky game with horrible bitty graphics and bad controls. It'll go a long way.
It'll go all the way to the top.
Like you rightly pointed out, if too many things appear, it gets weirdly sludgy to control and your character kind of scoots and flutters. I don't, like you said, it might be too many things. It might not be. It was arbitrary, like you say, so I don't know what's causing that. I think it's just bad programming is causing that. Just not very well put together, this. The background's blended with everything, so it made it look like some kind of pixel soup where there was just some blurry movement of crap moving around. It's just rubbish. I'm not going to go on and I'm at it anymore.
Shit stew.
Yeah, 19% is generous. I'd have given this 0. This is another candidate for 0, nil point. Nothing to see here. Load of shite. Bugger off. And that's what I think of you, Harvey.
And that's what we think of you, Mr. Weems.
Yes, get lost, Mr. Weems.
Yeah. Who are you anyway? Why should we be bothered about you when you're your long-winded title?
Sweet Weems are not made of this.
God, there's a deep pull.
Okay.
Or as he would later to go on, to write a song. Things can only get better when he became D-Weem.
It should be de-weemed.
De-wormed. Yeah,
terrible.
Awful.
Terrible.
Let's move along quickly. I think the next one's going to be interesting because that was dreadful. I can't be asked for that anymore. Anyway, yes, Graham, this next one, another full pricer. It's Death Wish 3.
Death Wish 3. Right, all right. This is from Gremlin.
The notorious Death Wish 3.
Notorious Death Wish 3. Coded by Peter Harrop. That's Mr. Arvida Zane Monty. I don't think he goes by that name. It's not on his passport, I think. Sean Hollingworth. Graphics here. Steve Curry, Marco Dioro. That's Avenger and Rebounder people. Music is by Ben Douglas. It's the Gremlin Gang, isn't it? The Gremlin Gang.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
Okay. In any universe, this is a troubled and ethically bereft film license tie-in.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there right from the get-go. This is a game that is unbelievably and mercifully loosely, based on the film Death Wish 3, the dubious 1985 action thriller directed by Michael Winner and starring Charles Bronson as the vigilante killer Paul Kersey. The general MO, just to give it a bit of background, the general MO of all the Death Wish films, of which there are 6, including the 2018 reboot, is that something murderously horrific and sexually violent befalls Paul Kersey's family, friends, etc. Don't ever befriend a Kersey, especially Paul Kersey, ever. All right, something horrible is going to happen to you at some point, and it's obviously normally at the hands of gangs of criminals of some kind, and because of the inability of the law to find and deal and prosecute and etc., Paul Kersey grabs or is sent a gun and becomes a vigilante, hunting and killing the gang members or criminals or whomever involved, ensuring they suffer violent deaths and thereby serving his own brand of justice. But boom, there he is. That's all of the films. They all do that. And the trigger point for this is just normally something horrific. The films are infamous for their graphic depictions of sexual violence, deeply misogynistic overtones, terrible acting, and general glorification of gun violence.
Yeah.
This game's not going to do much to help that. Both Death Wish 1 and 2 were heavily censored on release in the UK. I don't know if the others were. They should have been, because they're crap, not because they need actually. So just cut it out anyway. Because of their content in the third film, while taking a minor tonal shift, which sees Paul Kersey as some kind of police-sanctioned killer, still eventually relies on the same violent sexual tropes and narrative rationale that make these films grossly unpleasant in every aspect. So, good fodder for a game.
Great fodder, yeah.
Now, I'm not going to necessarily... The thing is, I'm not going to tar the game too much with the same brush as the film, because really, this is a stupid license tie-in, and anyway, I'll go into the game now. The game it's loosely based on one aspect of Death Wish 3, which is the street vigilante bits, because he goes around shooting gang members in that, which is kind of what he does in all of them, but it doesn't matter. In this game, you take control of Paul Kersey on the streets of New York, wandering around killing members of the Punk gang, good old Punk, who all dress identically, by the way, more often than not, carry the exact same weapons around, just varying their colours of their uniforms, which is interesting anyway. The game features multiple weapons, including a .475 Magnum, sort of a handgun, I guess, pump-action shotgun, a submachine gun, and, a rocket launcher. Yeah.
Where's he keep it?
Yeah. Honestly, is that rocket launcher in your pocket? You're just pleased to see us. Honestly, this is a game.
Don't ask me questions.
So, the mission is to track down and kill the gang leaders in their houses. Conveniently, all the gang leaders live in nice, sort of off-the-street housing in New York, which is kind of handy if you're going to gate crash them with a rocket launcher. So you're going to need to know where they are. So you're going to do that by navigating the flick-screen streets of New York, pretty much killing everything in your path. But you've got to be cautious, as there are innocent civilians in amongst that lot which can be killed. And doing so reduces your score. Not reducing your score, not that, no. No other repercussions for this game. They're just not as score-friendly as the brutal murdering of all the others. You can change weapons, you can find extras in the levels and navigate around using your map to help. So that's essentially all there is to this game, really. Mm-hmm. It's a run and gun game, essentially. This really, and a kind of proto run and gun, because it lacks an actual focal point of all the running and gunning, really. But anyway, so it is quite graphically violent, albeit obviously it's 8-bit violence. So we're attuned now to sort of seeing gross things in games. Goodness me, if you look at the Mortal Kombat games later down the line, they're ridiculous. But in 8-bit land, you can blow people up and they literally fly to pieces and they sort of land in a sort of body slump splat with a little bit of face on. And they react to your shotgun blasts and your machine gun blasts. They kind of fly back, and then these doctor characters run on and drag the bodies off. It's cool, but very bleak.
Yeah.
For me, it feels a little bit proto-narc in that kind of anarchic running at left and right, just shooting rocket launchers at things, because that's what you kind of can do in this. Even some side-scrolling beat-em-ups perhaps have a little bit of shooting and beating up the punks logic, because that sort of ties into the final fight. I'm not comparing the two, but there's a similar sort of aesthetic to this, punk gangs, and it's also an 80s trope, punk gangs on the streets of New York, trashing stuff. They're made, loads of police academy films are based around that entire thing.
Yeah, we said that about that other one, that LA SWAT.
Yeah, absolutely. However, everything here is medium res, built in a medium res, and feels bitty, and it's not very brilliantly realised. The sprites are generally okay sized, but there seems to be a lot of the same enemies over and over and over again. Combine that with very samey backgrounds, and you have a recipe for boredom. If that wasn't tasking enough, the way you navigate the game is really hard on the brain initially, because you need to navigate around a map essentially, which is New York. So New York is in 2D, side-scrolling 2D. But you actually you just split you've got this display on the bottom of the screen, like kind of a map. That isn't going to help you really with this at all. It's like watching someone. It's like somebody moving a jigsaw piece around, just made out of blocks. It doesn't really help you in any way, shape, or form. So you control the direction Paul Kersey is facing with up and down on the joystick. So you go through north, east, south, west, and his movement along that axis is by walking left and right. Now, while that might seem like a good idea, it only works if there's enough diversity in the backgrounds to make it feel different. Otherwise, it just looks like you're rotating around the exact same thing over and over again. So you can go left, push up, and the view might look exactly as it did 2 screens ago. It's really disconcerting, and it's hard to navigate because of that. So really what you're doing is just rotating around, and it is quite brown, this version of New York, brown and sort of yellow. So you're rotating around a kind of, brown New York, and not really feeling like you've got anywhere. And the map doesn't help you either, because the map sort of rotates to show you. You've even got a compass pointer that sort of tells you where you're pointing, but it doesn't help you, because really you don't really want to be trying to figure out the navigation of this. You need to be trying to figure out where to get to these houses, and you've absolutely got no clue on that. There is some dots flashing occasionally on the map, but they're not going to help you actually get to anything. Trying to navigate your way from point A to point B is really, really, really disconcerting and difficult. So without help from the map, you occasionally find doors, because you'll be running around and you just by pure chance, more often than not, you'll see a door in the wall, which means you can press the return key and enter said house. And then, believe it or not, the houses are constructed in exactly the same way as New York must have been. So you find yourself just lost in a house, but it's a very confusing world for Mr. Kersey. Barges into somebody's house. At this
point. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just walking around shooting people.
Yeah, with a rocket launcher. So I barged into someone's front room with a rocket launcher, blew 2 people up, and then these doctors keep running in. I don't know where they come from. They're just everywhere. They just keep running in, dragging the bodies off, running in, dragging the bodies off.
You're putting their kids through college. Paul Kersey, the amount of damage he's doing, he's putting an entire family through into a mansion.
It is ridiculous, this. And I mean, so even when you go in the houses, you're never going to find the gang leaders, because how would you know what they even look like? I don't think I found them. And even if I did, I probably would have rocket launched him before I even realised what I'm doing. And it remains confusing inside, outside. The upper 2/3 of the screen is the main action window where you run and shoot, and you can change weapons with the key press. The return key, as I said, allows you to enter and exit houses. You have quite limited ammo, and you can also get a bulletproof vest. It doesn't really help you that long, so because most of the enemies don't shoot. A couple do. Most of them try and hit you with bats, which is stupid anyway. Bearing in mind that remember the weapon you've got: gun, shotgun, rocket launcher, machine gun. Running at me with a bat ain't going to be a good thing for you. I'm just saying. I've got good options here. The only good thing about this game, because in every way this is such an ethically bereft piece of shit, and this game isn't even a very good. Even if this was a good idea to make a game from such a crap film, this is a bad version of anything like that. The only good things you can say is maybe there's some proto-Narc stuff in here. Narc is a game I really like. Maybe there's not to say there's a direct influence between this and that, because there isn't, but there is something about this being an ultra-violent game on the streets of New York, and Narc is essentially principally a similar kind of idea. That is the only similarity, and I guess there's no correlation really other than what I'm making. And the soundtrack for this is actually really good. Ben Daglish's music is the only good thing in it. It's quite stirring soundtrack. It's a bit repetitive over time, because that's the game, is repetitive, but it's the only good thing in this boring and tiresome rubbish tie-in. And when I went to find out some information about this, I was trying to look through some of the Gremlin Graphics websites and bits and bobs, and this game almost seems like it's been a bit disavowed. So I don't know how proud they really are of it either. I think it sticks out like a sore thumb in what is. Remember, these are games for kids. Death Wish 3 may be many things, but it is not a film for kids.
No.
So I don't know. Just it all seems a bit all over the place. What about you?
Yeah, it's a game of that purpose other than sheer 8-bit gore value, isn't it? I don't know what the thought process of this one, but I guess, it's a license. There's money to be made, and any film at the time was just getting licensed. So whatever. It's a bit of a change from the usual Gremlin stuff we've been seeing. Is there anything good to pull from this? Sounds good, as you noted. Decent soundtrack. I thought the visuals were actually pretty decent. It's good sprite animation, and the gruesome touches are, it's all quite technically quite good. The ability to go into houses is a nice touch. The ability to shoot through windows, again, another nice touch. Some nice stuff technically going on here. But the problem is it's all in search of a purpose. Very soon you come to realise that navigating the streets of New York and blasting everyone into piles of mulch just gets very old and quite tedious. I also noticed as well that there's no streets, because no matter which way you turn, there's just another brick wall behind you.
So, very Pink Floyd sounding that.
So it's like you just turn and there's another brick wall. So what you should do is, as you're running along the sidewalk, if you turn to sort of face the other way and you're suddenly going north to south, there should be a street that you're seeing going off into the distance. It's not just another brick wall. It's like, it's just confusing. It breaks my head. It's all very one note, and there's little in the way of variety. It's just running around shooting stuff, isn't it? It's just, I mean, literally. Yeah. Navigating the map's a chore. You just get lost. Technically, it's quite well made. It's just lacking purpose. It feels to me, I get your narc references, but I'd go backwards. It feels like an 18 rated Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah, without any of the fun. Without
any of the fun or interestingness or sort of diversity of design or anything. Yeah. Infamous and dull, like the films it was based on. Yeah. And also, there's no sign of the giggler. No sign of the giggler, who's the one character I do remember from Death Wish 3.
Well, it's like I said, they took one bit of the film, probably the safest bit, which is incredible when you think about it, because there's an entire section in that where there's some horrific sexually violent stuff going on.
There is, yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't weave that into the 8-bit game for kids, because that would have been nice, wouldn't it? Hey, I bought you this game for Christmas. Look, it's Death Wish 3. Oh, thanks. What's this about?
Hey, I wish I was dead. To quote The Simpsons.
Oh God, Charles Bronson, yeah.
Awful. Bronson. Yeah, it's not. It's technically clever, but bereft of ethically. Yeah.
Did you look at the alternative platform versions? By the way, the Spectrum version actually looked pretty good, considering.
I did not know. I did not have a chance.
Basically the same. I mean, they all suffered the same stupid problem, but the Spectrum version, albeit that it was all Spectrum-y colours, the actual characters looked a bit better defined. I think. And the Amstrad version it's very similar to the Commodore 64 version.
Well, I think it plays more to their strength because it's flick screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
The flick screen games sort of play more into their sort of strength. If it's scrolling, then you wouldn't have that. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. Death Wish 3. Mm-hmm. Let's move along. To our final game this section, Thunderbolt. This is our first budget title. This is from Mr. Gavin Rayburn. Remember Gavin Rayburn?
Rayburn.
He's back, and not in POG form. And it's another game named after his film and TV collection, because already we've had Equalizer, Terminator, and now we have Thunderbolt, obviously from Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, I'm guessing. Yeah, and still to come from him, we have the Enforcer, Poltergeist, and Gothic.
Okay.
So he's just going along his video collection. What can I call this game? I'll do. So also not really content with nicking film titles that have nothing to do with the game. What we have here is a shameless reskin of Uridium, but it's budget $1.99. So is this a budget bastard or a budget bonanza? Let's find out. So the worlds of Earth and Proxima have existed in a fragile peace for 500 years. And this has happened after the discovery of the chronoclasm bomb.
You don't discover bombs, you make them.
Well, they both discovered the chronoclasm bomb at the same time, and thus they both swore never to use it. Yeah, both sides agreed never to use. We're never going to use this chronoclasm bomb.
Use that, yeah?
No, we're not. So 500 years, fragile peace. However, in the year 2555, someone does use one, and this rips a hole in the fabric of space-time, again with the fabric of space-time getting ripped.
That fabric is very thin.
It's very thin and very ripped at this point. So it leaves debris 500 years in either direction. So what all this means is that you pilot what looks like a World War II fighter in a sideways bi-directional scrolling shooter, where you must kill enough enemies and then land in order to progress to the next different coloured level. So the levels take place over Earth, I think, and the enemies range from old fighters to helicopters to spinning rocks, and the tables from Xevious, and so on and so on. So whilst the graphics are okay, the game scrolls along at a fast pace, which is better than what last one we had from him. What was it? Terminator, was it?
Something dreadful, something like that.
The scrolling in this is pretty nippy, actually. This is a deeply unoriginal nature of it all that will put you off. It's just Uridium reskinned, but it's £2, and it's obviously getting better because this is pretty well programmed. It's smooth and it's fast. And you will get some shooting action out of this, but it's pointless as well, because I don't know why it's bi-directional. Because all you do is you just race through the level to the landing thing, then land on it and move to the next level. There's no going back and forth over the playscape. It doesn't, although you can. You never seem to have to. It's kind of weird. The music, which was Mr. Rayburn as well, on the title screen, is okay. The sound effects are okay. There's not, if you put its Uridium to one side, there's not really that much to dislike here. I thought it controlled pretty well. It feels fast. Its shooting's okay. It's just a bit one note. And there's not really much that designed to the levels, so they just feel a bit hodgepodgey. It's a bit easy. And I feel a bit churlish complaining about something that's relatively easy after the nightmares we've had to endure. But I got to level 4 because you've got basically you have a health bar at the bottom, and any bouncing or hitting anything reduces that. If you reduce, and you only have 1 life, so if you reduce your health bar to 0, it's game over. Your health bar does replenish at the start of every level, though, so it literally becomes just a race to the right. It's almost the right, standard scroller, but you can flip back and forth for reasons. £2. I think you get some enjoyment from this. Maybe it's okay. It's not terrible. They gave it 52%, and that's probably about right. Budget Uridium, or as I called it, Little Uriddle, which I thought. And that's it, really. It's just another knockoff from Mr. Rayburn of another game at budget price, and his coding chops are getting better, I think. So I'm not going to knock this too hard. I thought this was passable budget there. What about you?
I thought it was stupid, this game.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Plot-wise, it's ridiculous.
No, it's not even the plot. I mean, did you not find yourself bouncing around in this game?
You can end up doing that, but
that's the point. Is you shouldn't.
But once I figured the controls, I wasn't doing that so much.
If I'm flying towards something and I just inadvertently bounce or something and it immediately reverses my direction, very annoying that is.
Yeah, I know.
So I didn't like the way it controlled. I thought the graphics were quite okay. A lot of brown backgrounds though, and weird bad out of place sprites. But that was all right for £2. It's all right. I just didn't like the way your airplane sort of shoots across the screen like a missile a bit easily, and then starts bouncing off things all over the place. I found I was bouncing back and forth a bit more than I wanted to. And you also felt that you were bouncing off objects that you should really be able to fly over. So like these giant ball things, they must be like 75,000 feet high or something.
Yeah, we do. We will see that in another game as well coming up later. It's hard to judge heights of stuff.
Yeah, it's just, and that's part of the problem with it. It just felt like it was missing a bit of control. It's a bit weird, but for £2, it's an odd entry into the old side-scrolling sort of top-down shooty type thing. And there is obviously it's basically ripping off Uridium, but not very well. So it's average. I didn't find myself thrilled with it, and it was really difficult because of all the bouncing around. And I'm not going to persist with this sort of stuff when it's better games. But for £2, 52%, about right.
Yeah, there you go. Quick one. Thunderbolt. Like it. Thunderbolt.
Like Thunderbolt, yeah.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. There we go.
I don't want to say about it, is there really?
There isn't. No, there isn't. There really isn't. So there we go. That's our first lot of games. Interesting bunch. Some weird and wonderful and an eclectic bunch, that lot, I have to say. Yeah. Right. Well, at least I feel happier, though, after playing those than I did it after last week, I think.
Yes, at this point.
That's good. So we'll be gone for a brief moment. We're going to go, and you'll hear an advert, and you'll come back after that. We'll be going for a quick break. We'll come back after that, and we're going to talk about films and TV from September 1987. So please, yes, do stick around.
Massive Sunday roast dinners and Yorkshire puddings to our wonderful show sponsor davidhearnwriter.com, where you will find a whole load of brilliant audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks and more. David's latest amazing book, Escape from the Commodore 64, is available right now. In fact, let's go and have a sneaky listen. It would be rude not to.
A giant mole wearing a blue tracksuit ran with the prisoners, carrying a rope and, of all things, a gas mask. Maybe a glitch? Sarah asked. A bloody big one at that, Nell chimed in. They fell into step beside each other, laughing at the absurdity of the situation. Reese was a little scratched up, but otherwise okay. In that moment, recounting how he'd saved her, she felt an overwhelming surge of love for her little brother and slung her arm around his shoulder. She was surprised when he snuggled in close, watching as Nell continued to beat the clearly defeated droid, obviously not one to take any chances. "Sir, can I ask a question?" He peered up at her. "Sure," she said. "What do you know about Nell?" he asked in a hushed voice. She could read her brother like a book as he blushed and fidgeted clumsily on the spot. He was developing a crush on her. Sarah screwed up her face and pushed him away. No.
Now that is a spicy meatball. Escape from the Commodore 64 is available right now. Don't listen to me yakking. Head to davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
And we're back. We're back, and we're into films and TV in September 1987. What's going on this month? There's a lot of films, I will say that. A lot of films came out. But first, before we get to them, 7th of September, your favourite, Graham, Sylvester McCoy becomes the 7th to play the Doctor in BBC One's long-running Doctor Who, making his first full appearance in the role in the serial Time and the Rani. McCoy also makes his sole cameo debut as the 6th Doctor following Colin Baker's refusal to reprise the role for the serial, whatever it says. In part, due to his abrupt removal from the show. We've spoken about this on many occasions.
Yeah, the famous phone call from the producers where Michael Gray said, right, ring him and tell him he's not Doctor Who anymore. Funny enough, I watched an interview with Colin Baker and he explained how much that hurt him because he really did enjoy being Doctor Who and it really did affect him, which is why when they said, can you come back and just film the last few episodes when you die? He went, no, because that's what they asked him. They asked him to come back and film his death, essentially. And he's like, no, I'm not coming back. And he told me I'm not Doctor Who anymore, sort of. So, yeah, the 7th Doctor Who era is noted for its...
So is there no... There's no, like, bit where he regenerates, he sort of goes and comes back? I've not seen it. So.
It's at the beginning of the Time and the Rani. It's the very first episode. It's put down to interstellar turbulence. In the beginning pre-credit sequence, unusual for Doctor Who. The TARDIS is jostled about in really bad, pre-Amiga 3D.
Oh dear.
Anyway, and then the jostling around knocks the Doctor unconscious, and that causes him to transform. And so, for a moment, you see a horrific image of Sylvester McCoy in a blonde curly wig laying on the floor. It's true. And then he morphs into the new Doctor, and then that's instantly how it's done, right from the get-go, because that's the only way they could really do it.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so yeah, it's the 7th Doctor era is actually noted more for the fact that it was cancelled at that point after 26 years of running, which is kind of sad. Who would want that on their CV? Was you the one at the end when it was cancelled after 26 years?
I was the one who killed it.
And I think I've always been a bit hard on Sylvester McCoy. Actually, that sounds really horrible when I say it like that. Been rough on him. I haven't got hard on to Sylvester McCoy, although he is kind of cute. He was handed a poison chalice for this, because what could he do? The programme was dying on its arse at this point. It had been horribly underfunded. It was competing against really popular big shows in the US, including stuff like the A-Team and stuff like that. The production values were looking stupid now, and he was kind of dropped into this fairly last minute. Now, bear in mind the script and everything about this was written within 6 weeks, the 6 weeks prior to them shooting it for this first season of his. Mm-hmm. So he didn't really have time to be sort of, given a heads up on what version of Doctor he was going to play. He was just kind of thrown in. And then, as we noted, I think maybe a couple of episodes ago, you had that awful Hungerford disaster that happened where that guy went around shooting all those poor innocent people. Mm. And so that changed TV at that point. And they didn't want, because Doctor Who had, up to this point, been criticised for being quite violent, believe it or not. And so it changed TV. The A-Team was taken off the air. The episodes of Doctor Who, in order to remain on air, had to be kind of light-hearted and not too serious. Hence the reason you end up with episodes with Ken Dodd in it and all sorts of stupid crap. You've got Ken Dodd in there. You've got Bonnie Langford is his assistant at this point. It's all it's not good. No. And that high pitched scream. She's the only woman I know in Doctor Who history who can scream the exact same pitch as the Doctor Who end credit sound. That she screams that exact pitch. It's weird. Anyway, I won't bore you with any more Doctor Who facts and figures. Suffice it to say that.
I feel like I'm sat next to an airplane.
I just find that later. I've watched a few episodes. I try to address the balance and watch some of the episodes because I find them really quite crap. But his experience, you have to watch the later episodes. Towards the end of his tenure, actually, he's actually quite a good Doctor, and those episodes are actually quite good because he's found his feet a bit. I just don't know. I think they knew what to do with him at the start. But there you go.
Fair enough. 25th September is a US version of Top of the Pops making its debut on CBS in the United States, obviously, with Nia Peoples as presenter. To the launch of a US Top of the Pops allowed American acts to more easily make live appearances on the show without the need to travel to London. And it also gave British acts a chance to appear on US television, as each edition included footage from the UK series and details of the current UK top 10.
Yeah, which would have borne no relevance to anyone in the US whatsoever. They would have been like, looking at our top 10 going, who the hell are these crazy folk?
Who is Joe LaDolce?
Exactly. This gallery of bad teeth. What are these crazies? Unbelievable. I've just made a note, actually, because I can only think that the notion of the term pops is something that the US would have had no relevance. It would have, because they're like the Hot 100, aren't they? So the US have the Hot 100, we have top of the pops, but pops for us is a kind of 60s thing, isn't it? A throwback to the 60s. I don't think did that mean anything in the US? So when top of the pops came on, I'm like, what the hell is a pop? And what are they top of? I don't know. I don't know if pop was a thing.
Pop charts, isn't it? Pop music.
Yeah, exactly. Pop music. I don't know if that was a thing over there. I do know that this is a strange time. I can't imagine that, because I remember seeing some of the US acts in the UK and thinking, who are these? Because obviously once they start to blend the two together, you start to get some of the US acts that you'd never heard of, when you're like looking at the screen going, a lot of country and western and stuff started to appear. They did the US chart, for example, in that, and you're like, who is this stuff? But at this time, remember, it wasn't that long, it was only a short time before this that MTV refused to play Michael Jackson videos in the US. They wouldn't play them because of obvious reasons. And also, they also banned I Want to Break Free by Queen altogether because of its depiction of Freddie Mercury in the video. So it just shows you that, they're not as progressive, or they weren't then. And to our top of the pops, imagine Boy George being over there. Imagine what the US would have. I mean, they loved him over there, don't get me wrong, but I can imagine it's just, so there's a certain audience in the US going, what on earth are these UK people wearing? Goodness, they said that in an American accent, though.
And they never heard of orthodontist.
Is it really true? They spent £36 billion on tea.
Where's my coffee?
Yeah, give me some more coffee. Coffee. Give me my coffee.
Coffee. And a bagel.
Anyway, yeah, my bagel. Yeah. Anyway, that was what I thought of that.
Yeah. 26th September, Going Live debuted, which is a new live magazine show broadcast on BBC One and presented by Philip Schofield and Sarah Green. And yes, it was. This was the sequel to Saturday Superstar, wasn't it? Which was obviously Mike Reid. This was BBC's new Saturday morning kids sort of multi-format show. So yeah, it was great. I used to really like Going Live. There was some cracking stuff on it.
There was, yeah. I mean, it followed on from there. They had a history of doing this. Tiswas came along in the middle of this and dropped a big bombshell on them. But Tiswas didn't last that long, did it?
No.
So then they came back with Going Live, and they kind of ruled the roost with this stuff for BBC up until probably SMTV, I think, because they just didn't have anything that could compete with it. Even though you had Get Fresh with what's his name, that we've talked about it before, with that alien thing, and there was stuff like that. But
Gilbert, wasn't it? Was it Gilbert?
That's it, Gilbert. You had Number 73. It was just not going to compare to any of the stuff. And of course, they're Trevor and Simon. I mean, if you were going to have two aces up your sleeve, they still remain for me two of the greatest underrated comedy entertainers. And some of their sketches and characters in that show are brilliant. I put some video clips in. We'll put them in the show notes. They're genuinely brilliant, even funny now. So
they do.
Really good stuff.
You missed out Mooncat.
You mean Moon Monkey?
Moon Monkey. Hey, Moon Monkey. The raver.
Fish, pot fish, the number one fish stuck in a pot.
And obviously, the classic, the one I always remember, obviously Ninja's Day Off, but the classic is the Smooth Around one.
Yes.
The Smooth Around episode where they had the mannequin on, didn't they?
Yeah.
The mannequin, and the trousers fell off the mannequin.
Yeah.
And one of them just turns around and looks at obviously the mannequin with no genitals and went, "Oh, looks like he's been using Smooth Around." I just remember Philip Schofield and Sarah Green. They couldn't handle it.
Just brilliant.
It was incredibly funny.
I always liked their characters. The sister brothers still make me laugh to this day. So anyway, we'll put clips in. Go and watch Trevor and Simon. Yeah. I think they did a live stage show and everything. They didn't just disappear, but I don't think they've ever really been given some of the credit they deserve for how funny they actually were in that show.
They pop up a lot on do you remember the 80s talk thingies on Channel 5 and stuff? I think they always pop up on there, and they're always generally the funniest thing on there.
Yeah, I think they're hilarious.
Generally funny. Also, 26th of September, Chucklevision was first aired on the BBC.
Chucklevision.
Never a fan. Never ever a fan of this.
I know it's
maybe
massive. Not your demographic.
No, but I know it's to me, to you, to me, it's just.
Well, that came way later. This is like the first. This is just them being silly. It's that.
Yeah,
it was a spate of these kind of silly shows with it is what it is. I quite like their version of soft kids entertainment is harmless, and they are quite funny if you go with it. If you ever watch that with the right age kids, they'll find it hilarious. That's
I guess.
But YouTube and TikTok has now killed all that off because everyone seems to think they're the bloody Chuckle Brothers. So every idiot's gone in there and thinks they're funny. Not anymore. Bloody old man shouting at clowns again.
Absolutely.
But sadly, of course, one of the Chuckle Brothers passed away, didn't they? So now there's only one.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a chuckle.
It's just to him. That's it. Can't do the
Yeah, it's just someone holding one hold of a table up, and the other one's on the floor.
To me,
it's the saddest image you're ever going to think of.
It's bleak. You're bleaking me out.
Just one hold of a door being held up, and the other one just on the floor.
I quite like the Chuckle Brothers just because I like that silly kind of humour. It's totally harmless, and I get it.
Yeah, he's all right, but it was, yeah. I think by the time I sort of came around to it, it was just, I was an adult.
Yeah, same, really.
Anyway, new shows this month. 7th of September was a big day. Not just 26th when we had going live and stuff like that, but 7th of September we had DuckTales. Woo indeed. So, I was, like you've noted here, I was never had any massive affinity for Donald Duck.
No. There's mysteries about DuckTales that need answers, Adrian. I need answers.
Okay, go on then.
So it's all harmless fun. Okay, get it. And I don't really like. I like Daffy Duck. Daffy Duck all the way for me. Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck fine. Donald Duck. This implies that there's some kind of Duck dynasty. Huey, Louie, and Dewey are the nephews of Donald Duck, right?
Yeah.
They're the sons of Della Duck, the grandnephews of Scrooge McDuck. Who the hell was Della Duck? Well, who is that person? She's the younger twin sister of Donald Duck. So many eggs, Adrian. Who the hell is fertilizing them?
Scrooge.
It's just he can't be setting all them eggs.
He's just a male. He's just a mallard at the top.
He's mallard. Yeah, I never liked DuckTales. I didn't dig it. I can see why.
It had a great theme tune.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. A lot of those Disney ones do, don't they? In that
cracking theme tune, but it was just more of the same of those kind of characters. They were sort of branching out and trying to sort of leverage, sort of build some kind of bigger thing, weren't they? It was just one of those Saturday. I think we used to get it on a holiday morning. I seem to remember. I don't really remember much of it being.
Yeah. And they could all talk perfectly well, whereas of course Donald has a terrible speech.
No one would laugh at Donald now, sort of thing. He would be, it'd be wrong.
It's not nice. It's not nice to laugh at him.
It's not nice. On the same day, Nightmare launched.
Oh, come on. You gotta love Nightmare. I actually went and rewatched the first episode of Series 1 for this podcast.
What is that picture you put in? What is that thing?
We'll post the images of the show in the show notes. However, the opening credits of this TV show are brilliant. They are. The music is ace. It's like it nods. It's a massive nod in actuality to a Dragon's Lair type arcade or track sequence, that because it plays out like one. The music goes down, and he's like on his horse racing across. It's really brilliantly done. It's great opening, and then you sort of get to the show, and then Traeger's like, "Hello," and you're like, "Oh God, go back to where's the man on the horse and the castle and everything." Anyway, so I liked all of that stuff, and it really. You must have liked. Like me, this appealed to me on every level. Graphics, get computer graphics, D&D style stuff, dungeons, characters.
I watched it. I just ended up getting annoyed with the players, and I never liked Traegard. That was the problem. It used to annoy the shit out of me.
So I like the whole idea of it, and it's quite ahead of its time in kind of, it's almost it's VR without the VR, isn't it? Really, in some ways, it's so I quite liked all of that, and I watched the first episode. It doesn't age well as a show,
no,
but it ran for ages. That show, didn't it? Look at it. It ran from what till 1987 to 1994. I think it's 8 seasons or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
And I guess it's an early precursor. I don't remember much like this where you had third, because this would kind of go into things like Crystal Maze and things like that, and then you got all those Saturday TV shows, so Saturday evening TV shows where the people inside the puzzle don't have the full picture and people outside the puzzle have the full picture and are trying to guide that person around. And I don't really know if there was anything prior to this that did that format.
It's pretty new like that, isn't it? I don't know if there was even parts of the game shows for kids that had stuff like that. I don't think so. I think that I always felt sorry because the kids who were watching it on the screen, like we're watching it on the screen, you're vicariously enjoying it. Poor kid in the dungeon, such as well. She's just walking around a blue environment. It's like torture.
But you can't see anything apart from blue.
Right. You're in a dungeon, but everything looks blue. Shh now.
You break the illusion.
The power of chroma key compelled this. Strange enough, my autocorrect typing autocorrect changed that to Chomsky. Thinking the power of Chomsky never compelled this show. But
probably would have given half a chance.
I quickly changed it back anyway. Some of the rooms in this were great. Some were really, really shit. We'll post a couple of pictures of the shit ones.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. The face on the block thing. It's just like, oh, God.
What is it?
I don't know. Thank God the kid who stood in front of it can't actually see that.
Oh, dear.
What does it look like? Describe it.
No.
It's like a giant paving slab with a badly drawn face. All right, okay.
Oh, awful. Oh, what else do we have? Same day, The Time the Place launched. It's ran for 11 years. For those who don't know, The Time the Place.
It can't be stopped.
It couldn't be stopped. It was a program. It was developed by ITV's. It was ITV's competition to BBC's Kilroy Morning Discussion Show. So it's essentially a presenter with a lot of the public in a studio audience, and they would discuss
topics of the day, kind of thing.
Topics of the day, and they would get viewpoints, and people would shout at each other and what have you. The very British equivalent of US shows like Jerry Springer. But they were different, weren't they? Because they didn't have people coming up and going, "You slept with my sister's boyfriend."
No, very British affair, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would be Jeremy Kyle down the line.
Yeah, God, that was awful.
So these were much more, and they still have this kind of thing on a. I don't know if there's the one on Sunday mornings that's still running. The one with what's his face, the Scottish guy. I can't
remember his name.
Andy. No, what's his name? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a Scottish presenter. He does Radio 5 in the morning. Yeah, so they still have these kind of shows. Yeah, and then obviously it was brilliantly caricatured in Brass Eye, as all of these, everything newsworthy was caricatured in Brass Eye. With the
takedown complete.
Yeah, with the good AIDS, bad AIDS sketch.
Yeah, well, he even appeared, didn't he? On one of the Chris Morris appeared on one of the shows.
He was on Kilroy?
Member. I think it was Kilroy or one of them.
Kilroy, yeah. Did Kilroy go crazy?
Kilroy. No, that's actually that's funny enough. You mentioned that in Chris Morris's Blue Jam. He has an entire sketch where Kilroy Silk goes crazy and strips himself naked and runs through a shopping mall and pees up a shop window. It's worth downloading them and watching them.
I find it hard sometimes to differentiate what's real and what's not these days, because it wouldn't surprise me if that actually happened.
Well, it's a crazy world we live in. Who knows?
It would be.
It ended with Jeremy Kyle thinking you could really. It's probably still legacy ones, but I think that there was an inevitable way it was going to end. I don't want to go into all that because it's pretty dark and stuff, but there was an inevitability of how that was going to go when you stir all that hatred up. So.
Finally, Chain Letters launched on that day. So yes, Chain Letters was a quiz show where you took a word, you had a word, you take a letter, you change that letter, you make a new word, as it says in the theme tune.
It does exactly what it says in the tin. Take a word, do, add a letter, diddly-dee. It's just and I just imagine if all game shows had to explain the instructions in the opening music. 3, 2, 1 had gone for hours.
Yeah, but impossible. You get a riddle. That makes no sense.
Take a riddle. Form a stage play. You win a dustbin, or maybe a car. We don't know. I think it would have been easier, wouldn't it?
Break your hand.
Throw a dart. Badly throw.
Don't get anything for 2 in a bed.
Win a prize. We take it back. Yeah. So it wasn't very good. Although what makes me laugh, actually, I'll put the link into the very first episode because you'll hear that hilarious theme music. But it's where they shout "Here's Beadle" at the end that made me laugh because it's clear that they forgot that they didn't know who was going to present it. And then someone who was presenting this? Should we have named the presenter in the music? Oh, he had it at the end. So it goes, "Here's Beadle." It's like, I'm pretty sure he'd rather be called Jeremy or Jeremy, but he don't want to just be Beadle, does he? Mr. Beadle.
He's happy to get what he could get at that time.
They have to have special little microphones made for him, don't they?
His Game for a Laugh and Beadle's About had left a sour taste in the British public's mouth.
Yes, they had.
13th September, The New Statesman. This was the Rick Mail one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's Alan Bastard.
Alan Bastard, MP,
yeah. This was very good. I thought this was excellent at the time.
Yeah.
So it's the sort of more adult, Rick Mail, yes minister, prime minister, isn't it?
Proper satire of the Conservatives, really labouring the point of them, of them being slimy politicians and stuff and corrupt and all that.
Yeah, I didn't know it ran for 7 years.
I didn't realise it did. I didn't realise there was that many episodes of it.
No, I didn't
know that.
Wow. But also as well, that month, 17th September, another classic comedy continued with Blackadder the Third. Probably the best. You prefer the second series. I think I prefer this one. I like
the second. I really like the second one just for certain episodes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's because it was such a departure. We've talked about the second one, but it's a departure from the first. I just like the stupidity of this one and I don't know. I think Hugh Laurie's Prince
Regent
is amazing. It's just so good, and that's the Lovey's episode.
Yes.
The actors episode it's just incredibly funny.
Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, I prefer it, but it's still great Blackadder.
Yeah.
And there's less characters in this. That's because they didn't have as much money, so that's why you get more cameos. A lot of those cameos in that were all done for free.
Yeah.
Just people who really like Blackadder and just wanted to be in it. But it is really funny in it, Blackadder. So that dictionary episode is hilarious to this day.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I see. What's the word? He keeps coming up with the words. Cromulent or something.
It's just stupid. It's all good. It's really good. And Hugh Laurie is exceptionally good in that. Really good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, there you go. That's TV. We've got going in film. There's a lot going on in film, so we've got to probably not talk about some much of these because there's about 10 films.
Well, we don't have to deep dive all of these.
No, 3rd of September, Hope and Glory. This was a big deal at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it seems to have a lot of people liking this, but
it's all right. John Foreman.
I'm not his demographic. That's so.
No, these sort of films either appeal to you. I didn't watch this at the time. Obviously, I kind of come to this later. I quite like John Foreman movies. This is quite a good one if you like that kind of thing. Yeah. Very biographical, rather, isn't it? So of his own experience. Yeah, good. Yeah. Not bad.
So it's his experience growing up in London during the Second World War, isn't it?
Yeah, and it portrays that stuff really well, so it is really good stuff like that.
But there you go. More along my lines, 11th September, Hellraiser.
Yeah.
It's a terrible film.
It's bad.
They're all terrible.
Yeah, there's so many.
I have no idea how long how the Hellraiser series has gone on for so long.
It baffles me. I suppose they're endearing characters of sorts. I don't really know.
Cenobites. They hit on a formula, not the actual background stuff. It's the Cenobites. Let's just cut to the chase. The good thing about Hellraiser is Pinhead. Not that Pinhead picture you've put there.
that's out of one of the later films.
Is it?
Yes.
Who's that?
That's not Doug Bradley. I'll tell you that much.
Doug Bradley.
No, I think he's in either. There's so many of the sequels. When I looked into it, there's loads of them. I think there's maybe 6. There's 9 sequels.
9
sequels to Hellraiser. 9.
Jesus.
And there's actually a reboot of the actual original on the cards as well. Apparently going to be produced by Hulu, the TV channel Hulu. You're like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I rewatched as many as I could stand of the Hellraiser movies. I can't because they're so shit. But you take away from these things what you've got. I mean, they're really gooey, gory films. The first 2, really sticky, gory goo.
Yeah, the first one's far better than the second one, though. But
it's not saying much, but it is. I suppose you have to understand that the budget of the first film was $900,000. That's nothing.
No, that is really. I can't believe it cost that cheap. That's probably why it's just set in one house, isn't it?
That's exactly why it's set in one house with about 4 people.
Yeah.
But for that, you've got Clive Barker created this horrific imagery and this idea and that's the world they've expounded upon, isn't it? And they take it to silly places. But that moment when the Cenobites first appear, it is genuinely stirring.
Yeah,
but you don't realise how long into the film you are before that happens. It's about an hour.
Yeah,
ages before they appear. But when you see Pinhead for the first time, and he's clearly the best one of the lot in terms of the makeup effects, I think, in that first one.
Butterball.
They didn't really have names, though. He's not even referred to as Pinhead in the first film at all. So
has he not?
No, he's
just lead Cenobite, isn't he?
Yeah, later, of course, they give him really silly names because obviously they're expounding on the canon then by that point.
Apart from the one they couldn't name, which was the female Cenobite.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, later they've all got names, and then you get to the names where they just, what can we do? Let's crush a CD into his forehead. What's he going to be called? CD Head. All right, okay. Well, we're going down that road, are we? Right.
Yeah, that's in the third one, isn't it?
Yeah, and in fact, it's an excellent. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a brilliant episode of Rick and Morty where they end up in a Cenobite world with loads of really stupid Cenobites, which is hilarious. So I definitely recommend you go and watch that episode of Rick and Morty.
I will watch that
just for that, because you can see where they've taken it to the logical conclusion where you go with that, and it's really stupid Cenobite. Yeah. So it's worth watching just for that.
I mean, but what Butterball? It's a turkey.
Butterball's turkey, yeah, and of course it's later revealed that there were people in there and all.
There's the Chatterer.
Chatter, yeah. Why is he called that? Chatters.
Chatters, yeah.
Does he chatter a lot? Yeah. It's scary. Yeah. That chattering with your teeth. Yeah.
I wonder how much that he sort of drew inspiration from the Dark Judges in 2000 AD. I wonder if they were a bit of a inspiration on them.
It's all tied into a lot of stuff in it. There's the canon of it,
because obviously there's a lot of sort of sadomasochism and stuff in there as well, isn't there? And
essentially, what they are, they're in a sort of the sadomasochistic brand of hell, aren't they? And I don't know much, but I'm not read enough Clive Barker to know whether that's kind of the thing that he does a lot of. You've read a lot more than I have. So.
Yeah, there's a yes, that's a staple.
Don't go around to his house. Yeah. Goodness me, you can God knows what you're going to get for tea. A jacket potato with loads of pins in it.
But you're going to get butterball turkey.
Butterball turkey. You're going to get a jacket potato with just loads of pins stuck in it. No cheese or pickle on it, though.
No cheese, please. It's a waste of good dairy.
That's what he says to you. That's when you walk in.
Yeah. Do you want cheese on your pizza? No cheese.
Explorers in the further regions of cheese making.
Oh, Hell cheeser.
Yeah, can you imagine the cube would just be a block of cheddar? He's like trying to solve it. It's all melting in my hand. No, it's not.
It smells funny.
Cheese box. You opened it. We came.
Who's that round over there? Baby Bell.
It's just a massive baby bell for a head. How do we always end up making up Cenobites when we talk about Cenobites? We do this every time we talk about it. We end up with, what was it last time we had bloody Chappy Head?
No, oh yeah, dog meat Cenobite. Now we've got the cheese Cenobite.
Now we've got a Cenobite with a baby bell for a head. That is terrifying, but his head would be either tiny, wouldn't it? But that'd be the hilarious part. Like, calls off his cloak and he's a tiny little baby bell head. Come back here, you!
Swiss cheese one. He's just got holes in his head. You see right through him.
That was that one occasion where the guy opened the puzzle box in a cheese factory. Like, wow, this is rich tapestry of stuff here, guys. Make the Cenobites out of cheese. Do your worst.
It's just what cheese strings. It's a really tall, thin one.
This cream cheese is just in a pot all gloopy with a face. Wow, how did I got the short straw you did there, mate? You're the shittest Cenobite we've ever had.
No cheese, please.
Cheese razor. Okay, right.
Move along. So, on the same day, if you didn't fancy that joyous escapade, you could have gone Full Metal Jacket.
That's a good film, though.
It's a very good film. Yeah, I mean, it's a much better film than Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So this is not on the back of Platoon, but in that wave of movies we got about Vietnam and how it wasn't that great. So this was Kubrick's attempt, take on it, and famously all shot on the London docks.
Which is now where they've got Westfield, isn't it? They've got that big thingy, I think, where they did the London Olympics, strangely enough, in the end.
Indeed, yeah. So, this is a film of two halves, isn't it? Quite literally a film of two halves, because the first half is boot camp, second half is over in Vietnam and what it's like. So it's an incredible film, really, but it's as you've rightly noted out the first hour, an industrial band sample library, as we saw last week with the Full Metal Jacket.
Absolutely.
There's just loads of our Emery, our Lee. And so I don't know. You got much to say about Full Metal Jacket?
No, nothing more than you've said. It's just Kubrick's Great War movie, or one of his Great War movies, and it has all the great Kubrick touches. Yeah. Amazing sequence in this for me is when they decide to enact revenge on one of the characters because he keeps messing up, and so they all put, I think, soap in their
soap in a sock.
Yeah, soap in there and whack him, and the whole way it plays out, and the sort of weird sound that kind of it's an incredibly good film, and not just for that sequence, but it's just Kubrick knows how to do really strange levels of tension in films and really pull it out of simple things, and it's a trope of all of his films. So definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah, and it was probably the best of the three, because on the same day as well, weird triple bill this Hellraiser, Full Metal Jacket, and also Outrageous Fortune.
Yeah,
one of those high concept, not very good. No. Comedy, mid-80s comedies. This had Shelley Long and Bette Midler in it.
Yeah.
So obviously Shelley Long was seen in The Money Pit, Cheers. Bette Midler was she been in Beaches at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
So and things like that. So they're just trying to sort of put people together and see if it kind of came off. I mean, fair enough. It's nice to see two women as the leads. That's good, but it's not a particularly great film.
No, and sometimes these films are clearly written for other actresses. This is clearly written for the same actress who was in Private Benjamin and all of those.
Goldie Hawn.
So this is clearly written for Goldie Hawn.
Right.
But Shelley Long obviously was riding on the back of some probably available, whereas maybe Goldie Hawn wasn't. I don't know. It just feels like that from the description and everything about it, and the look of the shoot from the box art and everything, the poster and everything. I've never seen it though. Never will.
No, I've seen it. It's much of a muchness. It's okay. Yeah. It's one of them. 15th September, something I couldn't find anything about, and I don't think you could. Something called Pretorius.
No, it exists, and that's as much as I can tell you.
Yeah, there you go. 18th of September, we have The Untouchables.
Brian De Palma.
Yeah, Brian De Palma's gangster film.
He does.
So this is, It's kind of a classic, really. It's a lot of stuff in this one. This is good De Palma.
It's hyper stylized De Palma.
It's massively,
actually,
I mean, with all the, I mean, was it Gucci or who was it? Did the
Armani.
As Armani did the suits. You've got the classic lines in it. You put one of your guys in the hospital. You put one of theirs in the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Everything, in the homage to the Odessa step sequence.
Yep.
With the baby, Andy Garcia, the touchable sequence, the throwing off the building. There's just tons of it in this. But it's good, solid De Palma. This is when De Palma gets things right, as opposed to Raising Cain and nonsense like that. Great film, this great film. And still great to this day. I love the great soundtrack. Is it Morricone soundtrack?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great Morricone soundtrack. It's obviously Sean Connery is just he's Celtic. We'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
It's just great, and there's just so many good sequences in this, and the whole. I love my favorite sequence of this is the bit where they're riding the horses, where they take out the over the bridge where they're trying to do
in Canada.
They're moving the stuff over the border from Canada with the mountains and everything. That's really great, that sequence, and the way the music all wells around when they're riding. Brilliant sequence. What a film! Yeah, I love The Untouchables, and also as well, we have not even mentioned De Niro as Al Capone. And that sequence, classic baseball bat sequence and everything.
There's loads of amazing sort of gangster tropes in here, isn't there?
Yes.
And he put on loads of weight to play that role as well in classic. So he ate plenty of burgers. Similar to what he did for Jake LaMotta when he went down and weighted up and weight for Raging Bull. But what's not to like about? I mean, in the first 2 seconds, some kid explodes with a bomb in front of an ice cream shop. I mean, that's in the first opening minute. That's how this film. That sets its tone completely. This film is genuinely quite good. It's overstated gangsters and understated police, and that's what it's a really interesting dichotomy there. And yet, so the corruption of the police force, which is what this is really about, is inherent in the really sort of some of the characters. They kind of obviously what they are. It's quite an intelligently made gangster movie, and it's quite good, even though there is some really crazy stuff in it. It's really quite good.
Absolutely. Same day again, which was a triple release day. You could have gone to see Demoni 2, Linkabo Ritoma, or to you and I, Demons 2.
Yeah.
So you've only seen it once. Yeah, I've seen it. I've not seen it for a while.
Twice, I think, maybe tops for me.
Yeah, this is the sequel to the original Demons. This is, I think it's Lamberto Bava. So it's a mid-80s Italian horror film. So it's Lamberto Bava. It's written by Dario Argento and Lamberto Bava. It's that kind of mold of Italian mid-80s horror. So this is a sequel to the original Demons. Demons was set in a cinema. Where lots of people went and they watched this film where these demons infected people, and then they all went crazy and they got turned into demons in the cinema screen, and then they all maybe went out onto the land. This one is a sequel. This is set in a high-rise block where people are going about their life. A group of teenagers, I think it is, watch a documentary, or some people watch a documentary about the original Demons, and that
triggers the event.
And then one of the demons actually climbs out of the TV.
It's like The Ring.
It's very much earlier than The Ring, but yeah. So she gets and then that's they all get possessed, and chaos ensues within the high-rise block. It's got a decent soundtrack in that kind of Italian mid-80s goblin style way. It's got lots of gore, lots of probably eyes being gouged out and stuff like that. There's the black gym trainer guy comes out with some classic lines. Yeah, pump it, baby, pump it.
He's got
lots of
gym,
stuff like that. Yeah, so there's tons of stuff in this. It's stupid and illogical, and if you like mid-80s Italian horror, it's one you need to watch. Really, this long, things like Stage Fright, all these sort of. It's more stupid than and Argento's done some stupid stuff, but this is more in the sort of silly, kind of way. It's just.
I remember it being good. I just don't. I'm going to rewatch them actually. I think
it's all right. The first one's probably superior, but there is lots of other ones as well. This is not the last one in the Demon series. There were other ones as well. I think that suffers from a case of lots of films were made and then got given the name Demons 3.
Yeah, too many isms.
Yeah, too many. There you go. Never seen this one. 18th September again. Every Time We Say Goodbye. Tom Hanks film. Never heard of it.
Watery-eyed Tom Hanks is from what I could gather. As much as I know, I've never seen it, and I don't really intend to.
You never want a watery-eyed Tom Hanks.
I like Tom Hanks.
Sounds like a bad rhyming slang. I've just had a real watery-eyed Tom Hanks.
End the communication. Got to end there. That's it. I was just going to say how good his recent film was, but I'm not going to say that now. I'm off for a watery-eyed Tom Hanks. We've all had them. We've all had them.
Oh dear. Sorry.
No, that's properly made me chuckle. That.
There we go.
Yeah. That bombshell.
I've actually got watery eyes.
What are you doing at that desk?
On that note, we'll end there. So that's your film and TV. So what do we have? We had lots of TV shows. Sylvester McCoy was Doctor Who. We had Top of the Pops in America. Going Live started. DuckTales, Nightmare, Time to Place, Chain Letters, Chucklevision, New Statesman, Blackadder. We had Cheese Razor, Open Glory, Full Metal Jacket, Demons, Untouchables. What a mix. And a watery-eyed Tom Hanks. There we go. We'll be back after this short break where we've got our last lot of games for this month. See you in a bit.
Sun, Sea and Chippy Tea to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com. Let's take another listen to his amazing new book, Escape from the Commodore 64.
Stop it, Sarah whispered to him as they walked on together. Stop what? I like Nell, he said, his face blushing bright red. She reminds me of Yoko. Yoko's not real. She's just a silly, floating sprite from that absurd game you waste hours on. She's real enough to me, Reese said sheepishly. Sarah rolled her eyes at Reese, then took one last look at her friend and ran through the tight alleys, grabbing at whatever lanterns she could. A ninja appeared from behind a wall of bamboo, followed closely by a small green goblin? Sarah hated to use that word, but whatever it was looked exactly like every horror movie goblin she'd ever seen. Her heart skipped and she ran. The ninja followed, swinging his blade wildly at anything that got in his way. Flowers flew from their stems, strings of lanterns clattered to the ground, and Sarah looked for any out that she could find.
As the Mayor of Targ, I declare this book awesome. Escape from the Commodore 64 audiobook is out right now. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com today. What are you waiting for?
And we're back after that.
I'm all watery-eyed now.
Yeah, let's not say what we've been doing in the interim during the break. We've got games. We've got 6 left. 6. Let's get into it anyway. Graham, you've got this one. What is it? Star Paws. Tell us about Star Paws.
This is actually quite intriguingly priced, isn't it? At £5.95. I think it was the first of their budgety games, the budgety like games, mid-range. I don't know. This is coded by John Darnell, Dragon's Lair 1 and 2. I think it's by the same people essentially that made Dragon's Lair, that same company. I think it's Software Project, isn't it?
It is, yes.
It's also the graphics are by Nicole Bakerloff, which is a great name. Martin McDonald. So they're Dragon's Lair 1 and 2, and Platoon, Rastan and stuff. And of course, at the musical helm is the maestro himself, Mr. Rob Hubbard. So it's got quite a formidable array of people involved in that because they're all very talented. In Star Paws, you play Captain Rover Pawstrong, who, thanks to a missed communication intended for the astronaut Neil Armstrong, has been sent on a daring mission to save the universe. Nasty space bandits have begun breeding and flooding the universal markets, with the tasty griffin birds. This is all very silly, but there we go. An edible and addictive delicacy that has become so popular it runs the risk of destabilising multiple global economies. Good job, McDonald's, and got all of that. The McGriffin. So you find yourself on a distant moon in this game where the bandits themselves have set up a griffin farm. Those devious crazes. With the simple goal of your goal, is to destroy 20 griffins and stop the farm in its tracks. That's the plan. To do this, you must chase, capture, and kill them using your bare hands and a whole host of weapons, bonus, and support items, and all sorts are periodically also dropped from supply crates from your mothership, so you can even pick those up and then utilize them. Some of these are little mini bonus games, where one of them is completing a sliding puzzle in a given time frame, a bit like that. Split images that we played, a bit like that. Kind of
split personalities.
Split personalities, yeah. So that kind of mini game, quite hard to do in time, but it is one of those. And there's also a transporter item which will zap you to like a catapult style game where you got to fling your sort of bombs at the griffins as they run in the background and sort of try and aim, a bit like the catapult in Defender of the Crown. sort of that idea.
Absolutely.
And periodically, the Griffins, you've got to get the right hand. Periodically, they'll grab a trampoline and bounce one of the bombs back at you, and it's all done in kind of a nice comedic style. Your energy here is represented in the game and the UI by a cooked griffin, look a turkey really, but a cooked griffin. And as you lose your energy over time, because time is your enemy here, so you gradually lose your energy over time, you gradually become more skeletal. If you lose all the meat on your bones, it's game over. You've got a radar map at the bottom, which shows you where you are and where your nearest griffin is, so you can sort of run and chase across and chase these and chase them down. And that's that kind of the game in a nutshell. Your path is obviously hindered, so it's not just easy peasy. So you get rocks and things in your way, and you've got to try and navigate the space. It's not 3D, but you've got a little bit of 2D space up and down to play with, if that makes any sense. So you've got a little bit of depth. You can run like the wind left and right if you want to. You can slow down. You can jump and try and grab and do flying leaps and things. You can even go below the surface of the moons in this game as well. And there's mines down there with more griffins to chase. And so you've obviously got to go down there at some point. Bear in mind, you've got to get the 20. But you do need extra tools and things to go down there, like a mining lamp, and of course that's battery operated, so you get the idea of how that's going to work. All of this running and leaping and flying action is carried along by a really good Rob Hubbard score. It really works well with this game. It's one of those games where the sound and the graphics and everything sort of come together, because the music is good in this. It really keeps the pace of the game. The game's quite frantic. It's a lot of running about, running left and right, chasing things down. The graphics are really, really good. I love the way they've drawn this. The animation and everything is really, really good. And the parallax scroll in the background and the way that works is seamless. It's really, really nice. It looks the part. It's a really beautiful looking game, this. And in fact, actually, I think really this is kind of the Roadrunner game that never was. And it borrows so many tropes from Roadrunner. And you could almost take, if you put desert in this game instead of what you got, you would have a Roadrunner game. It's principally it's that kind of idea. So there's quite a lot to like. It's all in one load, so there's not lots of multi-load or anything else. Take note, Roadrunner.
Exactly.
It's the right mix of pace and levels and difficulty. It's not so hard that you can't do it, and it is quite fun to chase things down. You get extra tools, and you can get like a flying rocket bike. Essentially, you're playing the part of the Coyote in this instead of being the Roadrunner, so it's quite nice to have that. And you've got your own little mini version of Acme. It is heavily borrowing from that kind of idea, but this is a good, solid production, the right balance of all the items in it for the price as well. It keeps everything going. You've got really, really great music, multiple different scores as well, so you get different music in different parts of the game. I've always really, really liked Star Paws. I've always found it to be a really fun. It's brought back some of the fun. This isn't dressed in really complex sci-fi crazy. It's just nice and simple. You've got to go and just capture a load of stuff on an alternate world, and it's all of that is represented in this really fun, quite challenging but fun game. And I really, really liked it. On top of all that, great music too. What's not to like for £6? It's a bargain, really. Brilliant. I really enjoyed it. What about you?
So it's weird that we get two Roadrunner style games in a month, because we had. It was last week we had Roadrunner, didn't we?
We did.
So we had the official Roadrunner game, and now we get this. But now, obviously, this is flipped, isn't it? So this you play as the Coyote instead of the Roadrunner.
Probably was the better proposition, really, for the game.
Yeah, I get. So, and you're tracking down those 20 space griffins to stop the mercenaries flooding the market with them. It's a weird plot in it, causing financial ruin, like some kind of space griffin-based economy system.
Could be simpler, maybe.
It's weird. So it's a side-scrolling multi-level thing. You navigate this moon-like planet, and you run basically trying to capture 20 griffins, and you do this by running around a lot. There's a lot of running. So every now and again, like you said, you come across a box. There's many things, and like Coyote and Roadrunner, you can use these to try and capture the griffins in various ways. The animations are really nice. Like the over-exaggerated stuff is really nice, and they've obviously looked at Roadrunner to how they do them.
Yeah, same size graphics as well.
Yeah, it's like when you get the hover boots or whatever, and the way he leans back is exactly like Roadrunner. Really like it's exactly like Roadrunner on when he gets the jet powered roller skates. It's exactly the same. The way he's leans back.
It is.
So they've obviously looked at those cartoons and for how to sort of express that, because nobody expresses those kind of things like the Looney Tunes Roadrunner cartoons do, and they've obviously gone to them to look at that, and that's all really good. So like you said, the visuals they're a bit chunky, but they've got loads of character, and that's really nice.
Yes, they do.
And it's presented pretty well, mostly. I did find I'd like a better UI, a better way to navigate the objects I've picked up. It's a bit awkward. I can never kind of figure out what. I press fire and I move, but then I just use it. It was like, I don't know. I found it a bit tricky to sort of the controls
up and down.
Yeah, I did that, but it was like I wanted a way to come back out of it, to not use it. And so it's like you had to use something, and I didn't want to. So I just thought there was a better way of doing that could have been done, a back button or return or something. Maybe I missed it, or maybe me, I don't know. The controls in the artillery part I thought were okay, but I just wanted something. I know you get that too short, too far. Just something, because like in Defender of the Crown, you pull the thing back, don't you? And you got those notches, so you kind of gauge it. I didn't feel like that was the thing here. You just kind of fired. I don't know. It didn't really sort of give me any kind of feedback.
It tells you if it's correct.
Yeah, it told you, but what I wanted was a way to know how far I was pulling back. Sort of.
Yeah. It doesn't give you any indications. It's just
that's what I mean. You know, like in Defender of the Crown, you've got those lines, haven't you?
Yeah, total guesswork. I mean. Yeah. You need that.
I thought the mines underneath the planet as well were dull.
Compared to the surface, yeah.
Yeah, they're just weird, and they kind of go on, and it's forever. For me, and it's better than this game, but it's similar to the game we spoke about in the first part, and that's Death Wish 3. It's a game that just keeps going. There seems to be a lot of just running and moving, and I know there's a purpose to try and catch these turkeys or griffin. I keep calling them turkeys. Why don't they just call them turkeys?
It looks like a turkey.
Yeah, they do, sort of thing, and I think like that. But I just felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over again, and I think it works because of this is one of those games where there's enough gameplay there to for that music to keep you going. So it's like
and you've got different mini games in there at least.
And there are different mini games, the puzzle maps, the thing is, all that kind of stuff. And it's okay, and the use of the the abilities and stuff, and the kind of like that. I wish there wasn't rocks. I don't know what the rocks.
Oh, they are a pain.
The purpose of the rocks is stupid. You were saying about that other game where they just bounce you backwards. These do the same thing. It's
needlessly in the way. They're meant to slow you down, but
and the massive divey jump, just like I always felt this is a game that I wanted to like more than I actually did like it, because I love Roadrunner, and I don't mind it. It's not one of my personal favorite. I think you obviously like it more than I do. I can see why people enjoy the challenge of collecting the 20 griffins, because it's one of those games where you just kind of you keep playing it. It's sort of like other games in this genre we've kind of played that I liked probably more than you. Something like Mission AD, which is kind of those you run around a lot and you do the same similar sort of thing. And this is obviously, I think, probably a better game, but there's something about Mission AD which I don't know. It's in that kind of wheelhouse of game. And so I do. And at £6, it's a bargain. There's a lot of game here, and £6, 90% I think is about right. But there's just, I think I found myself playing it for a while, and after about 10, 15, 20 minutes of playing it, I've kind of had my fill. Maybe. Because I don't know whether it's, I don't, and I'm thinking, I've kind of seen what this game has to offer. I don't feel I'm going to get much more from it, and I never felt any kind of desire to try and catch all 20 griffins. That's just me though, but it is good, and I think this is one of those games where the music really does help to keep that pace going, and it's great. But yeah, it's all right. But I'm not going to knock it, because I can see there's a lot of good things around this, but I had my fill of it, and I think I had my fill of it back then as well. I remember same thing. I was hoping to sort of like it a bit more, but I don't know. It's all right. But it's better than all right.
So just make a decision.
I can appreciate this from looking at it objectively, that there is a good game here that a lot of people are going to like. It's just not 100% for me.
Yeah, that's cool. You can't like everything.
No, I can't. I do try.
Yeah. So it's all right. No
that's Star Paws. Star Paws. Good title, though. I do like that title.
It is good. And just to say, the title screen is ace for that. That's really well drawn. Yeah, really good title screen on that. So hats off to the title screen person.
And also, they've managed to do a punny title, which I don't mind.
Yes, I was going to question that, but yeah, it's just about gets away with it, doesn't it?
It gets away with it because it fits, like the Rover Paw Strong, like Neil Armstrong. There's enough. There's a cohesive sense of humour here. And because it's wrapped around that Roadrunner style, ethos, which I don't
absolutely
mind. There we go. Let's move along. To our next one, this was $9.99. This is Convoy Raider. Now, if this had been a Chris Christopherson simulator, I'd have been all on board for this. But it's not.
Rubber ducky, the return of Rubber Duck.
We got a great big convoy, but it's not. And so why do I get these games? Why do I put these things together? So at this point, how old's Beachhead? Is it 4 years old at this point?
God, yeah, old.
And it's still a damn sight better than this. This sees you. I'm not going to talk much about this. It sees you captaining a ship, I think, around the inner sea in order to keep it safe from enemies. You do this by monitoring your main screen, where I think you may get attacked by subs, planes, or other boats. There's a lot of supposition here because I wasn't really quite sure what was going on because the game just starts. There's no title screen. It's just there. It's just there you go, game. Okay. So you got 3 icons on this main screen that pertain to these things. I think they flash if you're being attacked by them. I think right. So. There's a sub icon, a plane icon, or a boat icon, and if you click on them, you can initiate. It's like a mini game, so like the Beachhead style stuff. So one of them is the angle. Planes coming towards you on your boat. You're firing your cannon into the distance to try and knock these things down, or missiles, whatever's coming at you. So it's that mode. It's that game from Beachhead, in sort of that pseudo 3D. The next one is a depth charge one, which I can't attest to as I never had it happen to me. So I never saw that one. I only saw there's a screen grab of that there's obviously a screen image of that in the Zapped review. So that's the only reason I know what that looks like because I never saw it. The third one is where you have to control a missile to destroy ships. And I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't destroy the ships. I just kept getting told I was hitting decoy ships.
Yeah.
And then fired another missile, and then fired another. I had like endless supply of missiles against endless supplies of decoy ships. I wasn't quite sure what the hell, do they have decoy ships in war?
Maybe.
Who's sailing them?
I don't think they do have them. I don't think they're actually manned because that would defeat the purpose
they just drag them along on chains or something.
Yeah, I think they build them as to distract them. If you've not seen Master and Commander, they do a decoy in that.
Oh right, okay, but
not a big one. Though.
No, a big one. And did they have like endless supplies of them? Because I seem to
they make
loads
one.
of them. Oh, right, okay. The visuals are dull. There's no real redeeming features to this game. There's another. There's a map screen you can go on, which you can then you can turn a wheel and push up and
steer your dot.
It's to steer your dot and push up and down to change the speed, and then you have to come back out. There's another one. There's another icon as well on that main screen where you can think where it just says everything's okay or something. Is it? I don't know. 2 games they were a rip-off of Beachhead, and then navigating the missiles in Zoids, it reminded me of that, but at least in that it was quite quick and over with and you were back into the main game. There's no music, no title screen, and no real indication of how well you were doing. I think there's a score, but I never saw one. Anyway, I don't know what the point was to this. There's a map screen. Like I said, you can have the thrill of pushing up to increase a number and turning a wheel and then watch a black dot move about, and that's about your lot. This was full price in 1987. Substandard rip-off of Beachhead. What was that other one we played? That other crap one, Death Boat or something.
That sounds bad. I'm not sure if it was called that, but it may as well have been.
There was something like that where you were sort of going through that map and you loads of different mini games.
Thing, wasn't it?
Maybe there was something about I can't remember. But also as well, don't forget at this point. No, not that one. There was another one. I'm sure it was Death Boat or something because I said I like the name and it should be better. But don't forget at this point, Destroyer is out.
Yeah, I know that.
And so if Destroyer's out there and Beachhead is 4 years old, what are you doing? This is a poor game. It communicates very little to the player and inspires even less. Avoid. Terrible game. I hated it. 28% was way too much for this nonsense at £10. Rubbish. What did you think?
Yeah, same. This is Gremlin graphics, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that. Sorry.
God knows what.
I couldn't find who made it. So
from the opening 3 food mixers that appear, because it just looked like 3 spinning food mixers making cakes, which is meant to be the radar screens, but it wasn't. Yeah. So from that to the lame Beachhead style thing to the map thing, this is just rubbish. It's meant to be an attempt at an arcade blend of arcade and strategy. It's neither of those things. This is just, the strategy is to avoid ever buying this for £10 and you'd be £10 richer.
Yep.
It was weirdly to control. The steering of the dot was just stupid, and everything was crappy, wasn't it? And you've got Destroyer by Epics out there, so just don't do anything that's going to try and challenge that, because that game was. I mean, I really enjoyed my time with Destroyer because it's it's an Epics game that's done really well. This, even with the little loads of loading that it had, this is just utterly dreadful. For £10, are you having a laugh? Goodness me, bury this deep.
I love the steering of the dot, by the way, sounds like another prog album.
It does. It just, no. I mean, goodness, when they presented this as the finished project, somebody must have gone, that is really shit.
You'll go a long way.
Somebody must have said that. Nobody could have said, wow, that's the best naval navigation system I've ever seen. What puddings do they make with those? Terrible, terrible, utterly crap. No more. I'm not going to say any more about it. I hated it, and I like those sort of games normally, so it really annoyed me.
You do. Hopefully you'll like the next one. The next game about, maybe you like the next game that's about seafaring a little better. As Graham, we have a bit of another sort of seminal title, I guess, really, but weirdly sort of for reasons. This is Pirates.
So this is a big old thing, this. So 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho and all that. Pirates, coded by the mighty Sid Meier, graphics by Michael Hare, and the design is obviously Sid Meier with Arnold Hendrick. Musician was even Sid Meier for this, so it's a Sid Meier old game, this one. Big old piratey, real-time strategy-ish. Not really. They actually have a particular name for it, but I'll come to that in a bit. But essentially, it's a big strategy game, piratey strategy game. And it's exciting stuff, isn't it? It's a microprose game. And you know what that means? But this is going to have a massive, massive, massive manual.
It did.
40 pages. And it's going to be extensively researched. There ain't anything you ain't going to know about piracy in the Spanish Main by the end of this, let me tell you. So you're going to know your cutlasses from your longsword, your sheep shanks from your hand cranks, and your keel haul from your knitted shawl. At the end of this, the global aim
Another
here
glorious
for this
day in
game,
the
the global aim of this game is for you to become a successful buccaneer and a rich retiree. So from your humble starts, you are seeking to make your fortune in the West Indies so that you can retire to a life of wealth, ease, and high status. The quality of your retirement is the sum of your personal fortunes, your rank, your land, your reputation, the wife, if you marry, and whatever especially pleasing events befall you during the course of your adventures. This is from the instructions. After any voyage, when you return to port and divide up the plunder, you can then retire if you choose. If your health permits, you can leave retirement and take up adventuring again, should you wish to try for more. This is a whole life game. This is a big game to play. So this requires time commitment. Mm-hmm. But you can save your game, remember, so it's not like you have to do one sitting. So I decided I was going to play this through and follow because I played it originally, but a long time ago. And the significance of these games was lost on me back then, I have to tell you, because generally speaking, these things don't really appeal to me at all. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. So I followed the recommendations, the manual recommendations for starting it at the novice level, because it gives you really good instructions on this, and the instruction manual is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There is nothing you're not going to know about how to do this game. It gives you advice, it's got bits of historical fact, it's got story, it tells you everything you could possibly want to know, which is really good. You do need to refer back to it a fair bit. So obviously, like I said, it's worth noting that you can continue and at this point, right from the get-go, you can continue where you left off. You can even command famous expeditions right from the first menu. So if you want a completely different gaming experience, you don't have to play this as a wannabe pirate. You can actually go and try some historically accurate missions and sort of relive them. Really, really clever, that. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different options of all the historical backlog of all of those, because we haven't got time. This review would be far too long if we're going to do all that. So I'm not going to deliberately go into all of that. All I'll say is we'll put a link to the PDF of the manual for this in the show notes. If you really want to, you can go and read it for yourself, because each one is historically, there's a bio for it in what you're going to do. So I decided to go for the novice approach and sort of select. So your initial part is you select a historical period, which is, it recommends the Buccaneer Heroes 1660 is optimal for beginners. So, but that's the default no thanks. If you actually choose historical period, of which there's, I think, the Silver Empire, Merchants and Smugglers, New Colonists, War for Profit, the Buccaneer Heroes, this is the one you play in Pirate Sunset. Each one of those has their own parameters, has their own rules, has their own things. There's certain things you can't do if you pick them. Because if you pick that and then you want to try and pick to be Dutch, because you get to choose nationality, and some of those you can't, because the Dutch weren't around at that particular time in that kind of naval tradition. They didn't have that. It's that accurate. So it's, you're going to need to really grasp that for this. So I went through the options. I picked obviously the default help. I went for an English Buccaneer because that's the default mode for easy. And you can also choose from French, Dutch, or Spanish in this as well, if you want to do that. And that sort of determines where you start, what ships you have, the size of your crew, your initial wealth and reputation and all that. So when you choose your nationality, that's kind of your base level starting point for you. You give yourself a family name at that point. I chose Calibos, of course. And then you actually choose your difficulty level, which is apprentice, journeyman, adventurer, swashbuckler. And then a special ability from fencing, navigation, gunnery, wit and charm, skill, and medicine. I chose fencing, which is kind of now, it doesn't matter which one you pick depending on your difficulty level, but your difficulty level actually increases the accuracy and determination of all of the various players that play out in this game. So apprentice, you're going to win most of the battles probably, and you're going to stand a good chance. If you choose swashbuckler, you better be really good at this game, because you are going to be dead really quickly if you don't, because they really really hard. So once you do that, you start your adventure off. So this game features little security checks in it, and the security checks, I don't know if they apply to the version I played, but I still did it anyway. But it refers to a bit in the manual. You have to go through, find the right little thing, and essentially click the right item. The way you choose things in this game, it tends to pop up messages and pop up little mini menus with a sort of short selection of things to click on, and then you choose in those, and they're almost contextual. It's almost like a Windows system where like another window, a little mini one will pop up off to the left, and you sort of get this kind of, it uses the screen real estate quite well to pop up your options. You're never overwhelmed with options or too much to read, I don't think, in this game. It represents itself in that way really well. So when you start as the young and poor, and you've got to seek your fortune in this new world, so you've got to try to purchase package, and you decide to indenture yourself, binding you to work on a sugar plantation for the first 5 years as payment. That starts you off with your money. You don't have to do that bit. But then obviously you start to get debts, so you decide to escape that life of debt and slavery, and you decide to ask some local seamen about joining the brethren up the coast. Got to do that in the right way. Remember what we remember from Blackadder 2. So then they say, yeah, you can join, and then instantly you actually have to sort of have a sword fight with the captain of that ship. This actually does have a deliberate effect on the game. So after the security check, you have a fight, and the sword fighting in this is actually quite good. It reminds me, and we'll come back to this a bit, reminds me of Defender of the Crown in the way it kind of works. You're on the right, not the left, and you've got a little bit more nuance in your movement, but it's still that kind of sword fight with joystick positional sword fight. Anyway, you sword fight the captain. You either win, and if you win that, you win the ship and the respect of the men, and hey ho, you're off on your journey, or you don't win, and then you put in a lifeboat with the rest of the mutineers, and you have to start your journey off in a very different way. So even from this point, you can start the game off in different ways and have to build up differently. It's quite clever like that, and I like that. So I luckily beat the captain, and I was able to sort of get straight off. You're given a quick sit rep, so you can start and then you can start to work your way through the journey. So each time you visit a small town, you can choose a series of options, which include visiting the tavern, speaking to the governor. You can sail across the different ports as well. Each time you go there, you can trade. You can do a sort of series of tasks in each of these ports, depending on who is in control of that port. I remember that you've got all the various warring factions. So the first thing I did was go and speak to the governor, because that's considered quite a good thing to do according to the instructions. And he told me that he gave me a ticket to go and kill some of the Dutch. I think it was, make war with the Dutch if I come across them. So instantly it gave me carte blanche to go. If I find any Dutch ports, or I come across any Dutch ships on my travels, I can attack them and plunder them for loot and fame and fortune and all those things. So then you go through that. You can also visit different items in there as well. So you can visit the governor, you can visit a tavern. In a tavern, you'll kind of get the latest news about what's going on. You can recruit men for your ship, which you need to do initially. And it also gives you sort of who's doing what where. So St. Kitts has got a new governor, and it gives you information about where you might want to head and things you might want to think about. You can trade with merchants, and then you can divide up any loot if you have it at that point. And you've got to kind of keep your crew happy at all times in this. So you can't stay in any port too long because your crew get restless and obviously start spending all their money. And nor can you lose too many times in this game, because then your crew start to get muted and feel like they're going to mutiny and stuff like that. And it works all the time. You've got to make sure your ship is supplied with the right things as well. So, food and things like that. Because if you go on journeys in this game, and I'll come to this in a minute, but when you go to journeys, you're using resources all the time. And if you run out of those resources, well, you're going to get mutiny because nobody, or people are going to die. You've got to really think about this stuff. So you can check all that information out, which includes the current status of your men's morale and things like that. So, and none of this is presented to you in lots of complicated stats. I want to stress that. This isn't presented to you with lots of big windows full of lots of data. You're just going to get little windows, nice little images, static images, and with some information about the current state of play of things. And you just have to make notes about those things yourself. So if you were playing this game, you'd have a notepad probably to hand, just to keep an eye on, actually, I might need to go and visit St. Kitts, or I might need to go and visit that particular island, or I encountered this thing over there. You can even get offered treasure maps when you go into the taverns. You can go on the hunt for treasure, literally go and dig up treasure if you want to do that, and things like that. So I got a mission from the governor, which was, I think, just to go and kill the Dutch, essentially. I've not got anything against the Dutch, by the way. This was just in the game. And so I went to hire some hands, got them on my ship. I was offered a treasure map, and then I was off. You then go to like kind of a map view where you can steer your ship around the seas. You can call into ports. You can choose whether you want to attack those ports, depending on which flag is flying over them. If you're flying an English flag on your ship and you want to go to an English port, you can do that, and you don't have to attack them. But if you want to attack them, there's a chance that you're going to get more fame and fortune, and you're going to get some more treasure and things like that. So you have to play that kind of act, whether that's the kind of person that you want to be. The more you do that, the more your reputation reputation start to build up as kind of being a ruthless, violent pirate as opposed to being a kind of a more of a reasonable pirate. Not that pirates are generally reasonable. I don't know if that's the kind of right word, but how you play this game has a direct impact on how you're perceived and how you will get through it. And that's kind of important to note as well. So when you've gone through all those options and you're playing the game and you sail your ship, you can have random encounters at sea. Oftentimes it'll be a ship ahoy. You'll sit in the distance and then it'll be revealed what flag it's flying, and you can choose to attack, or you can choose to leave it alone, or you can choose to sail away, or you can even hail the captain and ask for what news. And you really get a feel that you're playing this role. You've got a crew of people. You've got to keep them happy. It's quite good, and navigating around that map and all of those things is made fairly simple. The graphics are kind of small, but it's not a dot what you're sailing around here. It's a little ship, which makes perfect sense, and you sail it around quite easily. There's even weather on that bit as well, so you get storms, but you also get strong winds. So sometimes you find your ship flying into ports at about 100 mile an hour, mercifully on the lower difficulty settings. You don't crash into the ports like I probably must have done about 60 times of flying to St Kitts at 60 knots. Just smash my wooden ship into hey, I'm here. Hey, come on. So I think I did that quite a lot. So you visit different ports, attack them if you want to. You trade, work your way through the successful mission's goals. You progress and do well, you get more money and your crew is happy. And then you can choose as you get to the game. You can retire if you want to and live a different life. All of those things. That's what this game is about, living that life. If you do worse and you lose lots of battles and you head out on lots of empty treasure hunts, your men are going to get sick and tired of you, and it's going to be a mutiny, and then you're back to being in a boat on your own again. So you can lose it all in this game just as much as you can win it all. And it's all played out in kind of a strategy tradition. So sailing around takes time. Attacks take resources. Things happen as they might. So encountering ships going into battle. And all of things sort of occur over a time. So you can't just sail from A to B and expect it to take no time. It takes time. So this game is played out over months and years. So it's all of these things are always costing you those times and all of the resources you have. So you've got to keep building them up. You can't just expect to sail a life of a pirate with no money, because it's not going to last long, I can tell you. You need to keep this check of all your statuses. If you attack, you can start. If you attack something, you can start in the sea, so you can have this nice view of them ships firing little cannonballs at each other, which is quite nice. You can do the same if you attack a shore. If you attack one of those ports, you get like a little view of attacking the port with the same thing. They fire at you, you fire at them. You've got to try and avoid them, navigate your way around, and then you can actually attack the land and go in, and then you can, and obviously you can go and sort of go in, and that's where you normally end up with a sword fight with somebody, and you have to sort of do that, which is, again, quite nice. So you keep doing that, work your way through those stormy seas, winning battles, getting treasure. It's a big game, this. It's not one that you're going to be able to play in 5 minutes. And it's certainly one that and I think has put its money where its mouth is, because it's pretty expensive at 20 quid on disc at the time. That's quite high. And there's a cassette version of this, which I don't think is that reviewed. I can't remember. I think they said they didn't have it at the time of the review, if I'm right. But this does put its money where its mouth is in terms of research, in terms of the clever game design, because this game is brilliantly designed. It's a forerunner for so many games of Sid Meier's. It's unreal, and it's still heralded as one of the great games. So it's the first proper outing of this kind of exploratory strategy. They actually they refer to this as an action. They call it the first action simulation game in the instructions. That's what they refer it to. So it doesn't really, at this point, is this the kind of first of these? It's the first, well, actually, Defender of the Crown, as much as it's a simplified version of this, there's a lot of links between the two and the way they play and the way you manage resources. Yes, Defender of the Crown is a simplified version with prettier graphics all in all, but the actual idea of what you've got to do is kind of the same. The only difference really is that if Defender of the Crown went on forever until eventually you retired with the crown or you just died of old age, that might be where it might come into play. But that's no bad thing, because we like Defender of the Crown. Defender of the Crown was good. The nice little mini sequences you get in this when you're shooting, it's all good. They're not quite as graphically intense as the Defender of the Crown equivalent, but this is still pretty good. And it's got a lot more attention to the details in the background that Defender of the Crown does not have. So you really do have to pay attention to all of those statistics and keep an eye on things as you go. So it pays off, though. It plays out well. There's so many different modes of play for this, whether you choose the historical route, whether you choose if you think of those first few option screens alone, the variations of play for this are immense. So you can have lots of different games of this, and it will be completely different more or less each time. Some of these encounters will not happen the same way twice, and you'll never really play it the same way twice, because you might not go around the island in the same way. Everything has an effect on something here. So that's kind of what I like about this game the most, is that you've got such freedom to take this game in the direction that you want it to be. And even though it's not going to blow anyone away in the audio graphics department, this is such a brilliant gaming departure from blowing things up and lots of pointless interconnected stuff and buttons and icons. It keeps the options tight and easy to navigate in those windows. You sail your ship around, and you do what you want. The emphasis on you entering this world, and the game cleverly wraps around you and allows you the space to play it how you want. That's very future-facing for the time, and I don't think Zapped realised the importance of the game at the review time, given their score, which was a mysterious 60-odd%.
68, yeah.
68%. So again, this is the second time where I felt that Zapped had something in their hands that they genuinely didn't quite know what to do with, because it is quite ahead of its time, these ideas. Later on the line, you've got Civilization games that massively market and monopolise on those kind of all Sid Meier games, but he took this idea and really, really went with it. So it's future-facing. I don't think they realised the importance of the game, and I don't know that they really understood what they had. I think it is ahead of its time, and we all know Sid Meier went with it and carried on with it. I think what this shows here is a real love of game design. This is such a beautifully designed game. There's a real passion for the subject here and the player experience, so you can get in as much buccaneering time as possible. I don't think it's a game that would be classed as boring, because it's never going to be the same twice. But it is of a genre, and either you like those kind of games or you don't. And I think that's the danger here, is that, you know, if you're expecting lots of things blowing up, you're never going to really get into this. So if you're more along the Defender of the Crown with a lot more stuff to it, maybe that. But it does have a special charm in the same way Defender of the Crown does, obviously with less boobs and castles. So there's a lot of game here, a whole lot of pirates. Is it the best pirate game out there? No, because that crown belongs to one game only, and the only game that could come along and stomp its spot on this in a very different way, which is, of course, Monkey Island later, because that's the de facto best pirate game ever made. But that's a very different kind of game.
That's a very different kind of game, yeah.
So I really like this. I like this a lot, and I didn't think I would, but I really did like it. There's a footnote here, because there's a modern remake of this available on Steam, and it's not that different from this. Now, obviously, the graphics ante is up to everything else, but it's not that different. In a 2020 interview for the website The Gamer about his life in games and the new book that he'd written, he was asked about his design philosophy, and I'll end my little review section with this quote. He said, "It's the idea of interesting decisions, the idea of making the play the star or the central focus of the game, the idea of iterating and trying various things, the idea that if you're making it, you might as well make it epic. As long as you can make a game, make it as epic as you can. Those concepts are still ones that we rely on today as we evaluate a game that we have in progress and see how we can make it better." That's the philosophy that he started in Pirates and carried on with. I really, really like this. I think it's really clever. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with anything you've really said there. My life as a pirate was a short one. It was a short but interesting one. So after I wrested control from the captain of the ship I worked on, I heaved onto port, chatted with the governor, learnt we were at war with the Dutch and the Spanish, then set off on my way. After a rousing chase with a sloop, which got away, we came across a Spanish bark. We hit it with cannons before boarding it. I took down the captain whilst my men went wild, and we plundered and sank her, making off with food, cannon shot, and sugar. Keen to sell it on, we visited a Dutch town, where I forgot we were at war with them, and they sank my ship, leaving me to be washed up on ashore and to be tended to, and there my pirate career ended.
The sugary end.
Yeah, I was just there. I was like, oh, this water is so sweet. But that was it. It's a little slow, with all the loading. But the ambition that we'll see Sid Meier do many things from here is certainly there, and you can clearly see it. The arcade sequences, like the ship battles, are good, which I wasn't expecting, actually. And I like you can just ram ships. I wondered if I could, and I just rammed it.
And you can.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it works. And board them, and the game is huge in scope, allowing you plenty of adventures on the high seas. I think we've certainly not seen anything like this. For the time, I'm not sure there was much else like this, and certainly not on the C64.
No, well ahead of its time.
But I have no idea how this would work on tape. No chance. And 20 quid is quite the ask, but I reckon if you fancied the life of the high seas, and 20 quid would keep you going for quite some time, this would be quite the investment, and I think you'd get a lot of game out of this if you were into this. I thought the layouts of the screens were a bit odd, though. I didn't really understand. There's windows just seem to pop open all over the shop. It's kind of a bit strange.
I like that.
It did, but it was like sometimes we're bottom right, sometimes I was like, okay, yeah. It's a strange sort of sense of weird style to it. All said, though, it's an interesting start to computer pirating of the nautical variety. And I think if I'd had a disk drive back then, I would have loved this and I got well into it. But alas, a life of this kind of piracy was just not for me, which is a shame because I think it is really good. 68%. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they moaned about sort of saying, well, what's the point? And what am I doing? Well, you're living a life of piracy.
Yeah.
That's the point. And so there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to be done and there's a lot doing, but it's a very clever game and it's, as you said, very, very ahead of its time. But Yeah, I wasn't sure what I would think of this, but yeah, no, it's really good. There's another one appearing soon, Pirates of the Barbary Coast, which I've seen some adverts for. See how that transpires. But no, yeah, I thought this was very good and clear. You just see, Sid Meier's not a legend in game making for no reason.
No, not at all. Amazing guy. And his book's brilliant, by the way. If you ever want to read it, it's really good.
I will have a read. There you go. Pirates, good stuff. Well worth more than that 68%, I think, in retrospect.
Yeah, that's such a low ball number for them.
Yeah, it is.
You're telling me it's only a little bit better than Death Wish 3? You having a laugh?
Don't know about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. Pirates. Let's sail on to our next one, which is Rebel. This is a full pricer, £10. And again, yeah, Pirates only got 7% more, and still 61%. So laser beams and mirrors and bouncing them around to solve a puzzle. It's a pretty well-worn trope in video games. And because indeed, the makers of Rebel, which is the Gang of Five, had incorporated that self-same trope in their previous game, Dan Dare. So,
yeah, absolutely.
And here they've taken that idea and decided to stretch it out to an entire puzzle game. There is a plot, though, and you play agricultural operative THX 2240. Mm-hmm. And after being pushed just a little too far in her job, she nicks a tank and decides to blow everything up and get her freedom by firing a massive laser from mirror to mirror and blowing the bloody doors off each level. That's the plot. She does this in the tank by driving around, turning off some reflectors to allow her to turn on others, because you only have so many reflectors turn on, and that's where the puzzle aspects come in. So each level is multi-screen and scrolls smoothly around following your tank's top-down view, gauntlet style view, and you're in your tank moving around. It's actually kind of like Tron. It's that scene from Tron, but it scrolls around a bit. You're in a tank moving around. You have to navigate. The levels are kind of like parking lots and weird sort of. I don't know what they are actually. What they're supposed to be. It's like streets and roads and parking street lot. Parking car parks and stuff, which is odd. So you have to and around these squares. Some of them will be turned on. They'll be turned on if they've got a diagonal line going through them. They're turned on. What that diagonal line means is that if the laser hits it, it's going to bounce it off direction. So if it's sort of going from bottom left to top right, the laser hits that, it's going to go to the right, and so on. So you can get this quite simple, okay? But if you turn them off, you flick through them, and then the line will disappear, and then you can go and turn one of the others on, because you've got to figure out which ones to turn on. And then once you think you've figured it out, basically the door is some point. The laser is this big laser in the bottom of the level. The door's somewhere to the top. You bounce light around. If you think you figured it out, you press F5, and the massive cannon will fire the laser. And if you get it right, and you're not in the way, which I found out the hard way, because it blew you up, you destroy the doors and progress. Okay, so far so simple. Things are complicated though by a never-ending swarm of light aircraft, helicopters, and jets, which constantly try and bomb you, along with heavy patrol cars which kill you on sight. They shoot you or they bomb you, and everything's just trying to kill you. So this game was programmed by David Chapman and has visuals by Ian Matthias. David Chapman, who worked on Dan Dare, Ian Matthias also worked on that and also did Election and Shogun. So it looks nice. It's a little bland though. The sprites are quite chunky, and there's a bas relief style to the backdrops where there is some stuff on there, but there's a lot of what look like car parking, design. There's not much in the way of sound. There's an okay title screen tune and some whooshes and bangs in the main, but it's nothing particularly memorable in that respect. There's 15 levels to get through, and it may sound a lot, and it may not sound a lot, sorry, but this is where the issue with the game comes in. You're in a tank, so you're too slow, and the constant buzzing of enemies and damage received render it incredibly difficult to navigate the game and make any decent headway. So it becomes like more of a game of trying to avoid stuff. This is a puzzle game at its heart. If you're making a puzzle game, the challenge should come from figuring out the puzzles and not having to constantly deal with threats in the environment, because that's what this is. Especially when as a tank, you're not equipped to deal with them very well. You've got jets and helicopters just bombing you, and you can't turn around quick enough. You can't aim at them. So, it just doesn't work. So if they'd gotten rid of the annoying enemies and they'd just left the tanks in, the ones that patrol, just left them in as a bit of a threat, this would have been much easier. Not much easier, would have been a lot better, because as it stands, the puzzles are easy because you've only got to turn on 2 reflectors in that first one and then buzz it through. It doesn't seem very hard. And moving around doesn't seem that tricky. Navigating the world is a pain because the bloody... It's like being annoyed by a swarm of wasps all the time, and eventually the wasps just kill you. It's like, oh, this is just painful and horrible. And it's the main issue with the game. Reflecting lasers hit a goal. It's an easy mechanic to understand, so it's not hard to get this game. But here they're either not happy, and I don't know, they're either not happy with the puzzles and they didn't know how to make them more difficult because they're easy to solve, or they felt that the world was too empty and that people wanted stuff to be blowing up and stuff to shoot and things like that. And I don't know. The better solution here was to make the puzzles more challenging to work out whilst having a low-level threat from the world itself. Or maybe a timer, so in which the laser must fire or explodes through a buildup of power. So you're rushing around the world trying to figure out which ones to turn on. Either way would be better. It's a bit of a shame this, because it's a nice idea for a game. There are loads and loads of games on mobile where you're firing a laser through a series of reflectors to hit a target. There's tons of them. It's an easy thing to get your head around. But this game annoys as much as it engages. So it was a bit of a misfire for me. I think they focused on the wrong thing, and I think they did the wrong thing. There's some nice touches to it. I like being able to blow chunks out of the scenery and things like that, and your shots have effect. But I don't know. They needed to focus on it's a puzzle game, and they didn't focus on the puzzles enough for me, and that was the problem with this. What about you?
Same. I agree. I think the enemies in this are an afterthought. There's no doubt about that. I found once I'd got to grips with how to control the tank, which it takes a minute to get your head around. Once you do, okay, but you do feel like your response time is too slow for the constant objects inevitably that are going to kill you. And I just found it quite annoying. I wanted to do more. I wanted to explore more of this. I just found my path was impeded all the time in really annoying ways. I like the graphics. They had a nice sort of Tron tanks kind of look to them.
Yeah, I thought it looked like Tron.
I quite liked it. And there's no bugs. The scrolling's really nice. It's just too punishing in the way that the enemies just never leave you alone, like you say, wasps. And for sort of £10, I'd want a bit more maybe to the game than, I think, like you say, do more puzzle stuff, less stupid, annoying stuff, because that's easy game mechanics to throw in that mean nothing. But it's the worst thing you could have done, because I think it ruined what would have been quite an interesting puzzle game. And in the end, it's not going to get anyone's pulses racing, is it? Because you're just trying really to survive instead of trying to figure out a puzzle, and that wasn't what the game was about. So I thought it looked nice, but it was a bit of a misfire, and the review score was probably about right for that.
Yeah, it's a nice idea wrapped up in the wrong clothes.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. That's Rebel. So let's move on into our next one quickly. Graham? Denarius
from Firebird, a budget game from Firebird, created by Michael Agar, Craig Mitchell, produced by Software Creations. Title screams Andrew R. Threllfall, and the music here, Peter Clark. It's a shoot 'em up, this. And I'll give you the story is the Rignalians are going to invade. The Rignalians, AD. They've strategically positioned their fleet of 16 space arcs in our solar system, clearly preparing for an invasion. Now, I just want to point something out to you. Our solar system is massive, and I mean massive. You can fit 30 Earths into the space between the moon and the Earth. Did you know that?
I did. No, yeah.
239,000 miles. The distance between Jupiter and Saturn is 401,592,178 miles. So these space arcs are either really big, like planets big, or quite far away from each other, which means it's not really a strategic invasion. You wouldn't get that from just seeing them in the great expanse of space. Well, they're planning an invasion. Anyway, it would have been more obvious if they just lined up. Anyway, so all eyes have fallen on you, the commander of the 3-strong Denarius space fighter fleet. You've got to traverse the 16 space arcs, collecting the pods. They're called chlorine pods in the review, but I'm not sure they actually are that. Once you've got the pods, you've got to navigate the bonus round, which is kind of sort of moving between these sort of weird things. Then you go to the next arc. All the while, the arc defenses will be thrown at you in convenient sine wave attack wave formations, because they seem to do that a lot in these. Then if you hit anything or you get dead, then obviously your life goes bye-bye, so you can lose your life pretty quick in this, and it's back to the start of the arc. Repeat. Action is top-down, very similar to Warhawk, which was, I think, based on an arcade, which also looks exactly like this. So I'm thinking
it's Star Force, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think they're all kind of looking a bit the same, these. So in every sense, this is another Warhawk. It's on a Firebird for $199, which is a top-down shooter with loads of impossible enemies flying at you. And when you're flying over space hulks, or arcs as they are in this, it almost reads the same, really. I like the graphics in here, though. Really quite nicely drawn graphics in this, and the enemy variations are quite decent. Scroll's quite nice. There's a nice scrolling effect, like a 2-layer effect with the stars and the arcs. It looks quite nice, this. The difficulty issue, again, here, is that it's dull and stupidly difficult. Again. So again, we've got, some crazy playtesters in. The format here is neither new, it's not better than anything else. It lacks the required upgrade tree, so it's kind of basic, really. It's just a budget blaster with little more to offer than Warhawk. But if you like Warhawk, you're probably going to like this because it's principally the same without the decent music, of course. So I just don't think, I wouldn't expect to get very far in this game. I wouldn't expect a lot from it, but graphically it is quite a step up. It's quite nice looking, and the visual effects are quite nice in the game, but it's just another dull, impossibly hard shoot 'em up for me. What about you?
Denarius, it's another in a long line of stupidly hard for the wrong reason vertically scrolling shooters, and it's obviously in the budget range. I thought this was a rather ploddy and dull affair. It has echoes of Warhawk before it and a bit of Light Force, Hades and Nebula Fire Track. It's in that mold. It's in it's around that oeuvre, shall we say. So the trick is, though, you got to collect the pods off the ship, as you noted, as you progress for bonus points at the end. And that's a nice touch. Collecting stuff and little ones you collect to give you bonus points. That's about it, really. Your ship's way too slow to navigate the sparse aliens that come at you. So even though like you said, it's sine wave central, a lot of them, your ship's just not, you're not equipped, you're not fast enough, it's just not right. The height of the background objects as well, like we mentioned in that other one. What was the other one? Gavin Rayburn one. What was that one called? The Iridium knockoff one. Enforcer or whatever it was.
Thunderbolt, was it?
Thunderbolt, that's the one. Yeah, I get them. It's all film titles, isn't it? The height of background objects is not communicated well enough to you in the heat of playing, I thought. And the collision detection is not really forgiving enough. It's quite harsh on you. And there's also one alien, which is nicked straight out of Alley Cat, which is the homing centipede.
Yes.
Like one that it's virtually impossible to avoid, seeing as it homes in. It's faster than you and takes multiple shots to destroy. And your fire rate is oh so slow that you just don't stand a chance.
No chance.
It just destroys you. The only way to avoid it is to click your shield on. Obviously, pressing space gives you a shield, but you only have one of them per level. And at times, I would get two of these caterpillar type things, and you're just dead, and then you're back to the beginning again. It's like, oh, God's sake. It's just annoying. The mini game. I did get past the first level once, and then the minigame, such as it was so fast, I blinked and missed it. I didn't exactly know what it was. It was like some kind of dodge through gaps, I think, thing. But I hit the first, because I didn't know it was coming on, and I was dead and gone. And bye. That's your game over, or you're back into the main game, and it's all too hard. So it just feels to me victim to the fact that no one tested it again. It just someone come along and play this. Like whatever you said, Bobby McShooty, or whatever his name was, Billy McShooter, expert shooter guy. He just comes along and tests all these games or whatever. But it wouldn't have been hard if I just tested this. And it's not reactions, it's not getting old. It's just I can play some games. I can get quite far in Nemesis. I can get quite far in these. But some games are just too punishing because the actual verbs open to you as a player, they're just not good enough. Speed the player up in this and the rate of fire, and you'd have a passable shooter. Allow you to deal with the enemies coming at you. But neither of those things has happened here, so you don't. And I would say for £2, go get Warhawk. Better.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier on the
it's more enjoyable.
Self-esteem more than anything else. Eventually, after being beaten on these games, you start to feel depressed.
You certainly do, and Denarius is another one of those. So it's clever. It looks okay. It's nice. They're picking up the pods and stuff, but in the actual meat of a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, it's lacking. It's cutting into a pie and finding no filling.
Yes, absolutely. Just let the rigged aliens have what they want. Let them invade.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you can't do anything about it.
They've clearly underestimated the size of the known solar system anyway. So
it'll take them ages to find anything.
It's going to take ages to get where they're going.
Yeah.
There's the Earth. How long is it going to take us to get there? About 20 years.
All right.
Well, that's a bit disappointing.
Maybe at that point they'll have learned how to increase the shot speed on their defense ships.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't go holding your breath.
Nope.
No. All right. We've got one more left, so let's move on. That final one. Why is this not a sizzler? Or at least Kikstart 2. Kikstart 2, the proper Kikstart 2, because we had the 1-8 version some time back, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Now we have the proper Kikstart 2, and this is £2. £2! Probably one of the steals of the century. How is this £2? Especially when you look above. So Kikstart is back, and it's in an all new visual form, and it's got a course constructor to boot, and a load of new features and obstacles thrown in as well, and a graphical overhaul. Oh, it's all good. As sequels go, this shows you how to do it and then some. So if you've never heard of Kikstart, I'd be very surprised you have. If you're listening to this and you haven't heard of Kikstart, that's odd. Go listen to our earlier review. The original Kikstart was a split-screen bike trial race, where the object is to get to the end of the course in as short time as possible. The action is seen side on, and your little figure on a bike must contend with a series of obstacles, from jumps to fences to tyres to bumpy ground and all other kinds of things. The skill comes in knowing that some obstacles have to be traversed at low speed, some at high speed, and others can be jumped over. Some you can pull wheelies on, some you need to ride flat, so on and so on and so forth. If you get it wrong, the player is thrown to the ground with an annoying whee sound that you'll hear very frequently. And as we said previously, down the line, many years down the line, trials and games like that, you can just spot the direct antecedents of this. There's no mistake in that. So this was programmed as before by Sean Southern, and the shiny new visuals are by Andrew Morris. The original game had 8 courses in it, and then the C128 version that came out bumped up to around 25, 26, 27. I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that, I think.
It was mid-20s, wasn't it? So this one, back on the C64, it comes loaded with 20 courses and 4 labelled as pick and mix. So I guess that just picks ones at random. I'm not quite sure. Maybe there's some kind of... I don't know what they are. But like the first game, this split-screen game where you race against a computer or another opponent. But in this one, it's over 5 courses, not 3 like the first game. And the one with the lowest aggregate time over all courses is the winner, I guess. Should whoever, like a rally game or something. You can play whatever mix of courses you like in any order you like. Essentially, you just press the keyboard, A to X. Each letter corresponds to a course, and it just loads. It just has them in a row, and you just however you wish to play it. If you want to play DH. RPQ, then you can. Who cares? It's great like that. So it offers you a lot of choice. You just go at it as you wish. But on top of that, you've got all the new stuff as well. So you've got things like bounce pads and fire spurters. I don't know what other word to use. Fire spurters. Flamethrower type things, but they're not really flamethrowers, are they? They're kind of like beehives with flames coming out the top.
It's a flamethrower.
Yeah, I guess so. The UI at the top of each screen also now shows you a speedo, not a pair of trunks, but a speedometer, which is really useful because you know for knowing what speed you're at and gauging how fast you are going for each obstacle, because you need to be, sometimes you can go almost full speed over some obstacles, but not quite. So keeping an eye on that is quite useful. It's nice. There's no glitches in sight in this. It's a slick Sean Southern production, as we've come to expect over the myriad of games we've seen from him. Both screens scroll smoothly, the controls are tight and responsive, and falling off is generally your fault. The game is also now more eager to get you back on the course. In the first game, you could go quite a chunk just trundling along the bottom as it gets you to a point where it could get you on. Here, it's more likely to get you on quicker, whether that's a bit more better designed levels or not, I'm not sure, but you just seem to get up and going quicker. Top of all that, you've now got a day, night, and snow modes. So there's graphical overhauls there, so you can play all the levels in those kind of modes as well. So it gives the levels a very new look and feel. And on top of all this, as noted, there's the construction kit. Now, it's a little unwieldy to navigate, so it's not quite as nice to navigate. It's like the Boulder Dash construction kit, but everything's there. So once you do learn to navigate the bottom, you use the cursor keys in a kind of weird way. You can put what you want in, so you just scroll across the track, putting in obstacles, whatever you want. And you can save that either to tape or disc, and then you can replace one of the pre-built courses. You can use your own in the selection of courses you want to race. And it's pretty quick and easy to actually do that. You just build it, replace course, it's in, and then race it. It's great. Kikstart for me was always a great game. But this just comes along and raises the bar in every sense. It's better in every way. How this only got 86% is beyond me, because the wealth of skill and creativity, and for £2 here is almost beyond compare. It was great when you just had the original courses, and now you have 20 more and the ability to create as many as you want. So like Boulder Dash Construction Kit before it, this is a great release. It's let down only by how you interact with the menu screens on this one. It's kind of baffling why they're not joystick controlled. I don't know why they're not. All that said, though, this is maybe the best original budget game release so far, I think, and is far superior to most full-price software. Incredible for £2. Incredible. Sizzler all day long. God knows how it's not. But I mean, they might argue it's a bit too like the other one, but it's like, yeah, but it's better and there's more obstacles and you can build your own courses. So, don't know. But yeah, Kikstart 2. Ace, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've not got a lot more to add to what you've said. I mean, if you really liked Kikstart 1, you would be buying this, wouldn't you? Because it's Kikstart 2 and it's £2. So it is literally a budget bargain and quite a masterpiece of a little budget game as well. Graphics ante all upped, as you've said. You can play this. It's got better music, I think, as well. Better sound. Everything's better. Just everything. The design, everything's up. The level designer, as you say, is great. Controls are really good. Once you get to grips with them, of course, which is the same as it was in Kikstart, but that's something that you can quickly do. And there's loads of fun, I imagine, in creating levels for your friends and doing. I mean, there's so much to this for £2. It's ridiculous. So it's a super bargain, and it's a must-have, I think, item if you were a Commodore 64 owner at the time. I personally was never struck on constructor kit for games. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kikstart 2 is a great game anyway. I just never really never had the time to invest in making the levels on them. I just didn't. It wasn't just not my thing, and I didn't really even have a go at the Boulder Dash one or anything like that at the time. But they're interesting things, and they're nice to have. And it's even if you split this in half, it's the sumly cost of £1 for that, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I think it's, what is there that you can argue with about this? It's genuinely amazing. What totally blows my mind is that this fit into 64K.
That's what I've been saying about these weird multi-loads we've been having.
Just unbelievable. I mean, take note, all the programmers out there. If you want to learn how to optimize and write code and do the graphics and everything else, just take a leaf out of his book. I mean, goodness me, the guy's a machine. Anyway, and I also imagine that this is one of those great games if you had brothers or family that similar age kind of siblings, and you got this for £2 because you're going to be on this for a while making levels. There's so much to go at. So I think this just what a great game, what a great dynamic it introduces into things, and it just all works as it should. And yes, the controls are perhaps a little bit clunky around the edges here and there and the constructor part, but in every other essence, this game's amazing. And I still can't get over the fact that it's £2. We've played some full price turds.
And then some.
And I mean, it's just just unbelievable that this is. I mean, just even compare this to some of the games of this episode. This isn't staged incredibly difficultly so that you can't progress. Because that's, I think, how some of these games are trying to subjugate the notion of their value is by making them difficult. So it feels like you're getting value because it's so hard to do. And that's not what this is about at all. This is a great game with really interesting and easy to get into for £2, as it should be. Good pocket money game.
£7 cheaper than Mr. Weems and the Vampires.
Exactly. And how is it not getting a higher result? And also, like you say, sizzler material all day long.
Yeah, damn right.
It's weird that it's not.
Damn straight.
Yes, I said I was always rubbish at Kikstart, but it still didn't stop me from playing it. And I don't remember ever buying Kikstart 2, strangely enough, but that's more likely because I probably borrowed it. I've got it off somebody else at the time. There was lots of school piracy going on, I imagine, around this time. So
you imagine? You think you protest too much?
I think for £2, I think Sean Southern must have felt really stung if he saw a cracked version of this with a cracked throw on it. It's like, oh, come on, it's £2.
Yeah, probably.
You rotten pirate buggers.
Yeah, in the same episode we looked at pirates.
Yeah, exactly.
Would not be too happy with that.
Gets my vote, definitely a good one to end on that.
Yeah, indeed. After some of the anger-inducing ones we've had.
Oh God, yeah,
absolutely, a good one. And let's just go through them because that's it. That's our last one. So we looked at, what did we look at this week? We looked at Zynaps, which was hard. We looked at Deceptor, which was odd. We looked at Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires, which was awful.
Shit.
We looked at Death Wish 3, which was ethically bereft. We looked at Thunderbolt, which was Uridium. Star Paws, which was
Roadrunner.
Yeah, Roadrunner, Doggy Runner. Convoy Raider, which was baffling and crap.
The three staring puddings, yeah.
Yeah. Pirates, which was ahead of its time. I think, yeah. Rebel, which was reflective, but empty and annoying.
Void.
Denarius, which was just too slow to do it, and Kikstart 2, which was ace. So there you go. That's our games. We have, we've not had any for a while, but we've got a couple of, I'm not sure if they're crapverts, but they're adverts which are worth a laugh at.
But these are not necessarily crapverts. These are adverts that have been made crap by stupid choices.
Yeah, so our first one is for Trantor, the last Stormtrooper. Now, the reason I picked this is because the last Trantor himself looks suspiciously like Sammy Hagar.
He does look like it is Sammy Hagar.
It's Sammy Hagar. He's even got Sammy Hagar's pants.
He
trousers.
Has. He's famous for those pants.
Yeah, he is. But he's got Sammy Hagar's face. He's got his Sammy Hagar's hair and headband, and he's firing a flamethrower out at a cutout alien.
Yes, but you'll notice you don't see enough detail of that alien for it to breach any copyrights.
No,
it's just blurry enough to not be anything like Geiger.
If we turn it this far enough to the side, it can be not. We can't be sued for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's also missing with that flamethrower, so he's not actually shooting at the alien.
There's no glow on the fire on anything, and those that is bright.
I mean, it's a nicely. I mean, Sammy Hagar is nicely drawn.
He is.
You know, he's good.
Also,
his hair is luxuriant.
Well, he's definitely a rock metal dude, isn't he?
Yeah.
Did you notice the black writing on the adverts? It's so tiny that you almost get a seizure trying to see it.
I couldn't read it.
It's impossible to read. It's like,
No, and I don't know why.
Why would you put an essay in 5-point or 4-point typeface?
I don't know.
Just that's injurious to the brain.
And also, as well, Trantor was quite well known for its very nice visuals, wasn't it?
Yes.
So why put the screenshots at the size of postage stamps down the bottom?
Well, things always look better in postage stamp size, don't they, when it comes to screenshots?
They do, but Trantor was known for its, its big. There were good graphics in Trantor, I seem to remember. So
big.
And I also don't know why the vertical line in the T goes on forever.
I was just going to say that's an unnecessary thing. The typeface is outlandishly non-related to this. It's not really sci-fi. It looks more sort of bizarre jungle theme, Egyptian jungle theme or something.
I don't know what it is, yeah.
It's got like a Stargate feel, predates Stargate, but it's got that kind of, because they've got a massive O. It's like they've extended the O so they can fit the last Stormtrooper in it. They didn't need to do that. That doesn't need to be there.
No, it does not.
And then it's got mass logo confusion at the bottom there. It doesn't know where to belong to, does it?
Go, probe.
And then it says tomorrow software today, which is just the cheesiest tagline of all time.
Tomorrow software today.
It's just so cheesy. But you say those screens at the bottom, they're the screens they wheeled out. They're the Trantor screens. Whenever you see it from here on in until we actually play it, those are the screens you'll see on everything. The giant spaceship, the guy firing a flamethrower, and the thing being followed by a great big green blobby thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we get to the 60, I remember the graphics actually being pretty good in this, but I just remember it being a bit of a one-trick pony. But that advert and that T is annoying me. Even now looking at it going, why?
Yeah, Trantor. Oh, the Adventures of Sammy Hagar.
Why did they do that to the T?
Yeah.
Trantor. Do you know, I'm tempted to do a redux of that and call it that, and actually just include a version of Sammy Hagar.
Just put
in
a picture of Sammy Hagar on there. Sure, you'll find one of him in that pose.
There's loads of him in. He's bound to be holding a flamethrower in something.
Well, he was known for it around Hollywood.
Yeah.
Sammy Hagar. Yeah, there we go. So that's Trantor. I did laugh my head off when I saw that advert. And then our next one, the incomprehensible, again with an essay on it, the incomprehensible confusion of the Armageddon Man.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in there, isn't there?
There is a lot going on. So
and just based on the nuclear missile flying in, being, I'm guessing, attacked by some kind of satellite laser beam.
Yeah.
In the background, one of them's gone off because there's a thermonuclear explosion, or the mushroom cloud from a thermonuclear explosion.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think that's what it is. And then in the foreground, you've got the glowing man in the sort of star suit holding a wibbly wobbly Earth, though, at that.
Yep. Well, the plot of this is something about you play someone who's in control of all the Earth defenses or something. They're all at your fingertips, so you are the Armageddon Man, or I don't know.
Right. I can't read it. It's written in...
Again, yeah, I had to zoom it into like about, I had to get my full-on magnifying glass out to try and read this damn thing.
Even at 200%, that's hard. The year is 2032 AD, and the world is balanced on a knife edge. I don't want to read anymore. I can tell what it's going to be about.
And in a world where trust is crippled by uncertainty of response. What does that mean? Who wrote this?
The control of the network itself resides in an enormous and sophisticated satellite codenamed Olympus. Oh, that's enough.
It's just a mishmash of idea. I think it's a strategy game that pops up somewhere down the line. I'm also as well. I'm going to draw your attention to the mix of fonts in the logo.
Don't. I tried not to look at it.
And the random red triangle.
And I knew you were going to point out the red triangle.
Is it like a Channel 4 film?
It's just, there's no reason for that to be there.
No, none.
No, I'm not sure, because even if you were trying to sort of compartmentalize something represents this and something represents that, there's nothing that represents anything there. It's sort of, the way they've positioned the in there, and the man is very like the Omega Man. So that's how that kind of looks, I think, if I remember the cinema poster from years ago, something like that. So it's that offset to the left, offset to the right thing. But why would you offset it there?
Yeah, why would you offset it in the middle of the letters, in the middle of the word? You'd have the over the A and man over under N, and push Armageddon across a bit.
That's true. And if this is a game played by multiple people, then really it should be the Armageddon men.
Armageddon people, yeah. It's not good, is it?
No,
it's not. It is a classic crapper, I think, that one, because it's all a mishmash of stuff thrown together in an attempt to do something. And I really want spacesuit and space hair.
Yeah, his costume's pretty nifty. He's got space pants.
He has, but he's got space hair or dandruff. I can't work out which.
Yes. Or maybe he's just a face.
It's just a face in space.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got he's got the whole world in his hands. He's living the song. He's got the whole world in. He has. But yeah, and missiles, contrary to what the people might think, don't have jets of flame that shoot out in perfect straight lines like that. They don't quite look like that. Those are cruise missiles as well, aren't they? Meant to be actually into their ICBMs, aren't they? Meant to be.
If they'd have just simplified this down and just had him with and all that background guff gone, might not have been so bad. You know, because the message of someone holding the fate of the world in their hands, okay, I get that, but still, it's overkill, isn't it?
Yeah,
literally the nuclear bombs, I guess.
And I tell you what, because he hasn't got one hair out of place on his head in there. Looking at that, I mean, he's got a lot of hair lacquer on, so he's clearly not an environmentalist.
It was the 80s. I mean, they could. You know, we were scared of nuclear bombs. What we should have been scared of was, you know, CFCs
and hairspray. Yeah, that man is commanding the hairspray there. Single hair on his head isn't out of place.
Solid as a croissant.
And when a nuclear explosion goes off, that's a windy thing. It's not going to be just like a slight breeze. That's a 400 mile an hour kaboom that's going even faster than that. Breaks the sound barrier, doesn't it? So, 800 mile an hour kaboom coming at you, that is going to, I think, move your hair.
Not his.
It's going to remove your eyebrows, I think, than anything else, but it's going to
strip every hair from your head, apart from his, which is going to, because he's made of stars.
Yes, he's made of stars. Oh,
he's full of stars.
He is.
There we go. That's our crap verts. We found a couple. Always on the lookout for some. We've got our charts. Let's have a look at what our charts say. This is from Commodore user. To what we got here. We've got. Why do they put it at a stupid angle?
Jaunty, isn't it? This is the late 80s design. You see, it's always jaunty angles.
Jaunty. I'll give you bloody jaunty. Down to number 10 is Football Manager, finally on its way out, and people have actually got some football to watch on telly. In at number 9, a new entry is Run for Gold, which we haven't seen yet. I don't think.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Down to number 8 is BMX Simulator. Down to number 7 is The Milk Race. Down to number 6 is Barbarian. Staying at number 5 is Eyeball. Up to number 4 is Kikstart 2. A new entry at number 3 is Roadrunner. A new entry at number 2 is World Class Leaderboard. And staying rock solid at number 1 is The Last Ninja. There you go. Mm-hmm. Got some what are the new entries? Whizballs down to 11. Defender of the Crown at number 12. Head Over Heels, number 13.
Okay, that'll go higher.
Yeah, probably. Not what else down there. LA SWAT at number 18. Wow.
Oh, gosh.
Weird.
That's still hanging around. Microrhythm's still in there. Goodness.
I know. And Executive Leaderboard as well, which is weird when World Class Leaderboard has come out.
Yes. People may be buying the wrong one.
Stop buying the wrong one.
Oh, stop falling for the sales patter of this is just as good.
It's got this one's got trees as well.
They're basically the same.
Yeah, they are. Oh dear. Right, there you go. That's your chat. So what we got coming up next week. We move into, where do we move into? Where are we? We're number October, aren't we? It's episode 64 next week, isn't it?
It is the big one.
It is. So there's some bits and bobs that'll be in that one. It'll be a bit of a different format. We've got things doing, things occurring,
things cooking.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully it all comes together. Otherwise, it's going to be it's going to be a thing.
Oh, it will.
What games we got coming then in the next? Because it's a triple episode treat as well. October's a lot of games. We've got Ace 2 arcade classics. I think that's strategy. Black Magic, Bubble Bobble, Centurions, Cleanup Service, Cosmonaut, Death Race, Deliverance, Destructo, Enforcer, Evening Star, Flunky, Frenesis, Gunrunner. Frenesis, yeah. Have you played that yet? I played that. That's going to
Genesis.
I wish, but no. Gunrunner, Hysteria, Jackal and Wide.
Adventure.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like the adventure of Little and Large, doesn't it? Jackal and Wide.
Yes, it does.
Last Mission, Laurel and Hardy, Laser Force, Mega Apocalypse.
Oh no, you know what that means, don't you?
What's that?
Mega Apocalypse. That means that there's going to be controversy because I really, really, really don't like the music for Mega Apocalypse.
Okay, well, we'll see. Morphical. I keep reading that as testicle. The Transforming Car. Morphical's a terrible name. Night on the Tiles, otherwise known as just On the Tiles as well. Pile Up, another Pirates game, and this time they're on the Barbary Coast. Prohibition, Red Lead, and now we've got Revenge of the Mutant Camels 2, but this is also known as Return of the Mutant Camels as well. So weirdly, I don't know what it is. I think by looking into it, it looked like the same game. Star Force Nova, Swamp Fever, The Further Adventures of Alice in Videoland. I'll warn you now, you got 3%.
Yes.
The Tube, which we looked at recently for its crapvert, and finally Toad Force, which will hopefully be better than The Force, which was that crappy police simulator thing.
That'd be great if it was a combination of the two, just an army of toads and police toads.
You have to police London with toads.
That would be worth doing.
That is, yeah, absolutely. It's Winnie the Willow's gone mad. That's what that is. And that's it. There we go. That's this episode. We're done. That's September 87. Done and dusted. It's now in the past. We have done it. As ever, if you wish to support the podcast, you can do that with real cash monies by going over to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past and signing up to either of the tiers. There's a £1 tier, which, we love you long time for that. Or there is the higher tier, which is price of a pint or so, and gets you access to the Discord, early access to episodes, all that kind of stuff. So all good, and loads of other things and bits and bobs. As I said, we've got episode 64 coming next week. Commodore 64, episode 64. So
things are going to happen.
Yeah, things will happen. Do we need to sort of say sorry for the sound quality in this one?
Yes, we should, I suppose, because what's in the in-between time, the little bit of mini TLDR story here is that due to a cataclysmic, stupid event in the original recording of this episode of the podcast, the sound quality, and I will put something at the beginning as well, but the sound quality has been up to this point, for me, really ropey. And that's because for reasons that we can't understand, explain, or really thoroughly investigate, the recording system that we use just decided to use the incorrect microphone for me and instead adopted to use the default microphone of my laptop, which is not very good, as you've heard. I've done my best to clean up the audio into it's the best, about as good as I can get it, and that's as good as it's ever going to be. And we also have a backup system, and believe it or not, the backup system was
still picking up that microphone, wasn't it?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we've done the best. I've done the best I can with it, so I'm afraid I apologise. But at least this bit's clear, and from here on in, we will always double check our mic health.
Yeah, we will. So if you've been a bit surprised why the last game suddenly gone ultra clear, we kind of had a bit of a split recording, but there you go. Right, there we go. Yeah, so I think that's about it. We're done. We'll be back again next week. All those games. We've got loads more coming up. As I said, we've got three episodes for October, and we'll be doing that. Episode 64 is out next week, and so I think that's about us done. So I don't think you've got anything more to add, have you?
No, that's it.
No. All right then. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills,
and I have been Graham Ruddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.